All right. So a Saturday live stream, a little bit different, but here we are. NFL Saturday as well. This is just a weird time. Here with Jay from Unfair Sports, my man. How you doing today?
Time fantastic, man. I love doing this. Like you said, it's NFL Saturday, which is already weird in itself. But yeah, man, we had a great last 3 days. I'm tired. I don't know
I
about
am.
you. I'm exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah, I am. Especially, I put out 5 videos on Wednesday plus a 6-hour live stream. I think 3 videos Thursday and just the one yesterday. So the yesterday was a little bit of a slower day. But man, we got to recap this because we have some winners, we have some losers from early signing day. Super interested to hear from not only you, but everybody coming in here right now. Really interested to know who y'all think impressed you the most, who you think missed the mark the most. And I think that's probably the best place for us to start, right? Right now that the early signing period has kind of came quiet. Who are the winners? Well, I'll go
Ooh-wee.
first and foremost right here, right? Alabama. You have got to put them up there. When you look at what Alabama did with this recruiting class, it's absolutely nutty. They signed 7 5-stars. When you look top to bottom, it is just an unbelievable class. Jay, what was the most impressive thing to you when you look at this Alabama class?
Y'all got Desmond Ricks.
Yeah.
Just adding him to the rest of that team. And like you said, 7 5 stars. Like, it's funny because we knew Keon Keeley was coming, of course, and we smelt that Caden Proctor was going to pull up, but being able to snatch Desmond Ricks out of the hands of LSU, that dude was locked there. I just knew that I had it in my bones. He's going to go to LSU. They are Alabama puts him out there, but they're DBU. You know the defensive backs that go from LSU to the NFL, and he was gonna be that next one on that list. And then when I saw, wait a minute, he's going to Bama. I'm like, gosh, yeah, he's rated as I mean, he's a lower 5 star in a way, but nah,
After
he can be a five
reclassifying.
star plus. Yeah, and he reclassified after a reclassification. He's at 23rd in the country on 24/7. That tells you enough. But getting him, oh, hopefully he redshirts and lets age kick in for him, actual physical age, so his body can even adjust to, because he's 17 years old, 16, 17,
I think he's
because he
18.
reclassified. Is he 18 now?
I
Because he
think he is.
reclassified. So,
Yeah.
well, he may have been pulled back a year then. I'm
I
guessing
think
when
he
he
was.
was
I think he
younger.
was an older kid for his.
Older.
And I
Okay.
could be wrong on that. Don't quote me, but I
Don't,
do seem to
I'm
think that I
curious.
heard something about that.
I've looked up his age and I have not been able to find anywhere, and more so probably because I just wasn't paying attention to what I was looking at. But outside of that point, I think that him redshirting and then playing in 24, he has a potential of taking somebody's starting spot, and not even on accident.
Yeah, he's great, man. And that was an area Alabama really needed to address. They had the one cornerback in Hurley, but they definitely wanted to add in another. And what better way to do it than Ricks? And it's funny, Saban did that interview Wednesday evening, and they were like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, how are you feeling?" He's like, "Oh, locking it up, but we're still after another cornerback." And I think everybody in college football, everybody that follows the recruiting, that follows the cryptic messages, they heard Saban say that, and they were like, "Okay, something's coming." People didn't know whether it would be Kermani McLean, who didn't sign with Miami. Desmond Ricks, possible option, ends up being
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Ricks. I'm going to tell you the wildest thing about this class to me, man. And this is something that's just insane. So we talk about the 7 5-stars. They have 10 guys in this class that rank inside the 24/7 Sports Composite top 50 players in the nation. 10 of the top 50 in this class. Want to talk about the top 100? They have 15 of the top 100. If we're talking the top 200, or top 300, I mean, they have 22 of the top 300, should be 23 because Cole Adams comes in at 304 after
Yep.
sustaining that season ending injury as a senior. If he plays that, I mean, everybody agrees here, he'd be a top 300 guy, right?
Yeah. 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 No. You're right.
The
100%.
two blue chip 4-star guys that they have that rank outside the top 300 guy are both very talented. One's an inside offensive lineman, going to play guard. The other one is an athlete. I think they both have really exciting film. The lone 3-star, Jay, is a kicker. The lone 3-star is a kicker, and people might be wondering, but you're missing 2 names. You're right. The number 1 JUCO player in the nation, Malik Benson, and then the number 2 JUCO player in the nation, Justin Jefferson. This
Yep.
class is dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. And it's funny because so a buddy of mine, he's a big Bama fan. I actually need to make sure to send him this video. He can hear me talking about you all because I give him crap like Chris gives you crap about the Roll
Yeah.
Tides. But no, he hit me up and he was asking me, he's like, hey man, you pay attention to a lot of this stuff more than me. And I want to understand it. He's like, because I told him in the past that the one complaint that Nick Saban has had, just like Bill Belichick has, when you play a national championship, you're about a month behind in recruiting, preparation for the next year, and all of that. And this past year wasn't up to Bama standard. And he's like, so is this giving him an opportunity to do more? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, as much as we make the joke about the SEC doesn't care about these bowl games, they don't care about these bowl games. And it's not that they don't care, like they don't want to win them. It's more of I can focus on recruits and recruiting more up into early signing day. We'll practice, but we're going to focus on early signing day stuff. And then we're going to focus on the actual national signing day in February, those players that are still in limbo for the next month and a half. He doesn't have to prepare for a championship game or a playoff game. Once the January 1's done, he's getting a whole month to work on recruits. And that's a huge deal for your elite recruiters, especially like him, because he's always wanting to be so prepared and always thinking ahead. And Belichick talks about it all the time, too. You go to the Super Bowl, you're 2 months behind in preparation for next year. And it's like, but you're winning. But at the same time, when your mentality is winning is the standard, you're not going to be caught up in all of that stuff until you actually retire. So it's just a fascinating piece. This year was perfect. The perfect storm, bad season, and now you all were able to really just fully retool the way you want to. And good God, you guys did it. Cheaters, man. I'm tired of it.
And I want to know from you, what is your biggest win for Bama in this class? Because when I look at this, I can give you 3 names right now, and it's so tough because I look at Russo, that guy right there. They list him as an edge. He'll probably play inside. I mean, he is unbelievable. I could name so many guys, but I'm going to name. This is wild. When I'm asking who's the winner of the class, I'm going to give you 3 names. First and foremost, Caleb Downs. He comes in as the number 6 player in the nation, and I think he's underrated.
I can see that.
I think that. I think he has an argument to be the best player in the nation. If y'all haven't watched Caleb Downs' film, he is so rangy and he's so smart. In high school, it is apparent that he is a film junkie. In high school. Not only that, he's a very athletic family. If I'm not mistaken, his dad played in the NFL. I think so. Brother is Josh Downs, the wide receiver for North Carolina, and his uncle is Dre Bly, who also played in the NFL and is the cornerback coach for North Carolina. So this is a very, very, very prepared family, very athletic. Number 2, Caden Proctor. Alabama needed the offensive line wins. What better way to do it than getting a top 15 player, number 2 offensive tackle? And my final one, Jay, before I pass it to you, James Smith, the must-land position for Alabama, interior defensive line. They snagged the number 2 interior guy in the nation. So those are my big wins for this class for Alabama.
So for Bama, when I look through all of this and remind myself of all the greatness that you all had and how much I hate everything that you're doing, Nick Saban, and I'm just a hater here. I'm gonna be honest. The 3 that really jumped out to me the most, snatching up Keon Keeley and Caden Proctor. Keeley's gonna be stupid good.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say Will Anderson, but maybe a diet version, and that's still terrifying.
That's still a first-round pick.
Yes, that's still terrifying. That's a first-round pick, monstrous player. He's going to be really good. I don't think he comes out as a freshman and does it, but I could totally see him come out there as a sophomore doing it.
That's a loaded room.
Loaded room. And I can see him overtaking some folks just by sheer will. Caden Proctor having that line, adding to that line, like you said, you all lost a lot of you lost some not key players on the offensive line to the portal, but you lost some I still feel like significant. Got some players with starts, some depth. I think that adding a Proctor type player that could potentially come in and start immediately 6'7", 330. He's huge. He can move. And Iowa was chasing him. We've talked about this in the past. When we first met each other, that was one statement you were like, I love that you said that. Iowa produces linemen in the NFL.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. So when you see a school that produces certain positions and they're going after the same guy you're going after, yeah, their eyes obviously can tell you something because they've been doing this for years. And I mean, go look up the linemen in the NFL that went from Iowa. You'll look and you'd be like, wait a minute, that dude went to Iowa?
And
Wait a
that
minute.
guy, and that guy,
And that guy? It's just always a shocker, but having a player like that's going to be huge. And then honestly, the last one for me, I'm going to be honest. Not only is his name perfect for his position, I think he's going to be a monster for y'all. Richard Young. Richard Young sounds like a freaking NFL running back. And when I saw him play, I'm like, God, dog it, man. Not a freaking another Josh Jacobs.
And you know what's
but
so crazy?
Actually rated high.
Then they have Richard Young, but then they double down and get a composite 5-star running back as well, which personally I think Richard Young should have been a 5-star composite. He fell just outside, which, hey,
whatever.
That's not my call, but like I think he is. Neither here nor there. Justice Haynes, who comes in as the number 25 player in the nation, Georgia legacy, guys. He's from the state of Georgia. Dad played at Georgia and goes to Alabama. That running back class is wild. Absolutely wild.
Yep.
Now, my first winner, Alabama. That was my answer. Who's your first big winner from early signing day?
We've got to go ahead and just keep it homerish on your show, right? We've got to. It's got to be the Oklahoma Sooners pulling out a top 5 class.
I mean,
top 4 on ESPN. I mean, look, this class was already going to be top 10 irregardless, and I think that there's a few more players still left on the docket that we don't really know much about that's being on the hush, because that's one thing I've learned about Brent Venables. It appears that he has a very close relationship with Sam Presti, and they like to move in silence like the G in lasagna. They don't want nobody to know what the hell they're doing, and they go after these players and they start snatching them up. And this class for the Sooners, this is probably one of the best defensive classes we've had since Tommy Harris.
Ooh.
We really got some monstrous players just on the defensive side that are not only underrated, but their size. They went after a lot of size and length. Another Sam Presti preference, if you noticed. If you're a basketball person, he seems to get all of his 3s and 4s are all long, rangy guys. I think he's got 4 7-footers that can play small forward and shooting guard right now. That's what they do. Kevin Durant type players, they like size and length, and that's what they got here. So PJ Adebayo, he's my favorite player in this class, period.
Fair.
I love Jackson Arnold. I think Jackson Arnold's going to be great. I've told a few people this. PJ Adebayo probably is going to fight for a starting spot. Javon Curse. Just look up Curse if you've never seen him, if you're too young to remember the freak. They call him that for a reason. He was a monster with the Tennessee Titans. I can see PJ being that.
Even then, if I may, he stands 6'4", but doesn't he have like a 7-foot wingspan?
7-foot wingspan. He's a basketball player.
I don't know how many people caught this, but there was a time when Cole Kubelik was covering an Alabama game, and he played offensive line in the NFL, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was standing there, and he was trying to demonstrate to people how difficult it is, even for him who played in the NFL, to get your hands on Will Anderson. So they had someone stand in front of him, and he put his hands out like this as if he was trying to engage a block. They had someone standing there that would represent how long Will Anderson's arms were. He said that Will Anderson could be punching him in the chest and he couldn't even touch him if he was extending his fingers. That's why that 7-foot wingspan matters for an edge guy, because I can jam you, get up under you, and you can't touch me, right? Like now I'm dictating everything. I think that is such a big win for the Oklahoma Sooners, that wingspan. I'm sorry to interject. That needed to be said.
I appreciate you jumping in, and that was one of the biggest thing about him, and that's what jumped out to me about PJ when I saw his wingspan and I started watching his tape and watching his moves, his ability to get underneath the tackles and go right around them, his speed. I think he's going to. He was not looked at early. I think On 3 was the first ones to really pay attention to him and immediately slapped a 5-star on him. It's like, no, this dude's a 5-star. He needs to be respected. Go watch his tape. Go see what he does. And then everybody else started jumping on like, oh, my goodness. Somebody had a good eye. They caught this. And then we snatched him up. He signed. He'll be here early if I'm correct. And, oh, my God. So they'll add 20 pounds of muscle on him. His frame can get him to 280 easy, and he'll still be able to move as fast as he is. He's got all the tools you want. But outside of that, the Peyton Bowen piece, man, we got to talk about that real quick. Of course, we dropped videos on it. We've talked ad nauseum about this whole situation and all the details on it or whatnot, but this is crazy to me. The rumor is, of course, we know mom wanted Notre Dame. Dad was like, I'm cool, but I think Oregon be great. He wanted OU, but nobody wanted to listen to him. So he picked Oregon to really stir the pot at home. And then the compromise with the parents was, all right, you can have what you want. Now, this is a rumor. This isn't facts. This is just something I've heard this rumor and I thought was kind of fascinating. And I've always wondered if it had something to do with the girlfriend. Because, some parents are kind of terrified about young athletes with their girlfriends on the same places, but she's an athlete. Like, honestly, I would want him to be there with her because and I've watched some of her soccer tape. Emma's good. She's going to be really good at Oklahoma. But it was just fascinating seeing how the drama went down with that. I feel bad for him because he's been pulled so many different directions on this. Dude probably couldn't sleep for days trying to figure this out, or at least trying to convince the powers that be where he really wanted to be. And then, of course, in the end, he comes to Oklahoma where it makes the most sense for him with his close friend, with his girlfriend. And we know his little brother looks like he's going to join next year. The safety room is going to be really good for the Sooners. Something we need. Like you were talking about, Caleb Downs. Caleb is, to me, and don't attack me, Ed Reed 2.0. He's got it in him. He's got it in him. Like you said,
I'm not going to argue.
He's smart.
I think he could be the number one player in the country.
He's smart. He's instinctful and all of that. Peyton could be a Sean Taylor. He could be a Sean Taylor. He can hit. He likes to hit. And he's smart out there on the secondary. Special. So, yeah. I want to see Downs and Bowen do some things and see who can outdo each other over the next couple of years. It's going to be fascinating. But outside of them, outside of the Bowen drama we had, honestly, the other one that I've been in love with is the other secondary is Makari Vickers. So Adebayo, Peyton Bowen, I give you my third, Makari Vickers. Seatbelt's going to be something stupid.
Yeah.
He's a DB. He can play both corner and safety. He has island capabilities. Solid return guy. I think that's probably Jay Valai's best work here.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree.
That's a good. Yeah, it's a Valai one. That's his best. I think that's some of his best work here. So, yeah. Sooners to me was definitely a big win for early signing day.
Yeah, when I look at this, I think whenever we're talking about the conversation around Peyton Bowen, I think my biggest question is if you were trying to send a message, what difference would it have made if you chose Oregon or Oklahoma? The message would have been sentient either way, and it would have been received the same. You still would have sent a message to your mom that you're not going to. So that's my only thing with that rumor that does not add up. Because if you wanted to send a message of you can't control what I'm going to do, then why would you then let them control what you want to do? You let them control you into not. So it fundamentally is like trying to say 2 + 2 = 5 when we're just like, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if you wanted to show your parents, I'm not going to let you control me, then why would you let them control you into going somewhere that wasn't where you wanted to go?
No, you're right. It's weird. It was a weird deal, and I'm just hoping that that whatever it is that held up things, he's gotten it straight away. I'm hoping he had a big sigh of relief. I'm hoping that there's a whole bunch of weight off his shoulders, and he can just relax and focus.
I don't know why.
Me too.
But and I'm not saying that rumor has no truth to it. I think that there is a lot of truth to it. I think there's something we don't know because it doesn't make sense to me that if you're going to send a message like, oh, well, I want to go somewhere and prove that I need to make my own decision. I just don't get why you would go Oregon, then OU, when if you just chose OU out the gate, it would have done the same message.
Yeah, and it's I think there's truth in the middle somewhere. So I think there's some truth in that rumor. There's some truth of what actually went down. I think there's some truth in the middle. We just got to figure out what that gray area is and be honest. At this point, he's made his decision. He's good. He wants us to respect it. I respect it because, of course, I won out of the deal. I would have respected it at Oregon too. I just want it to be put to bed. I want him to focus on football. He'll be an early enrollee. I know of this. He definitely is going to be early enrollee. So I'm pretty stoked to have him on campus where he can focus his mind on it. But the last piece, and this was definitely placed in the chat by our boy Matt. The real one reasons why this was definitely one of the biggest winners of it is the former regime said that they couldn't recruit top 5 classes here.
We're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to that, but that's huge. But this class is an embodiment of Brent Venables and staff, and it's funny because a few people had jumped in some of my videos. One of my buddies, one guy that's a loyal viewer, Lester, kept asking, and those on here that watch my channel, I appreciate the love as usual. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button while you're here with Ty if you're new to the channel. We talk about a lot of defensive players on the class. And so because of that, they're like, man, are we going to even go after offensive dudes at all? And I'm just like, yeah, we've got some. But this class, you can tell, is an embodiment of what Brent Venables is trying to do. Oklahoma's never had an issue getting skills position guys. We've seen the classes in the past that the regimes were putting together. We could get those guys. The problem that we've always had is not just getting defensive guys, getting the right ones and putting them in places to be successful. That's the reason why defensive guys at Oklahoma do end up in the NFL, and some of them are playing on Sundays on a regular basis right now.
Very true.
Some of us are stealing starting jobs right now. It's just that I don't think that the coaching regime that brought them in put them in the most successful spots. They just were on the wrong team, to be honest. I think that's truly what it was. Sometimes you can't out-talent scheme. Irregardless of how hard you try, you just can't out-talent it. And I think that's where you're seeing on this, adding in Dave McCullough. I mean, I can go down this whole team of just ridiculous players. Lewis Carter, which I think Brent Venables says such a violent hitter. He said that he could play probably all 3 phases if they wanted him to. Yeah. There's so much in here. Hell, Hollywood Smothers out of North Carolina, Gatorade Player of the Year 2 times. Mm-hmm. He said he'd be an amazing safety. But
don't know how he's outside the top 300 either.
Hey, tell me about it.
Sense to me, but
it doesn't. This comment here, it's days. You're right. It's tough. It's tough, and I'm so glad that we finally got depth, especially in the secondary. I think the biggest thing though for me has been PJ Adebayo getting those defensive line guys. Ashton Champ Sanders, who likes to push in the middle and will create disruption. So they like that. We talk about the 3-3-5 all the time. And when you watch OU play, their base is the 3-3-5. They shift into a 4-3 every once in a while. You'll see they'll be in either a 0 technique to move it back into a 3-3-5, or they'll move into a 3 technique. The bigger thing is maintaining pressure and getting more pressure so the secondary isn't out there for 7 seconds. You can't expect a college secondary to be okay with 7 seconds of coverage.
Gracious, no,
at all.
No,
and I say that about Georgia. I'll say that about Bama. I'll say that about Ohio State. Any school that has a really good defense.
Right. Sertan, Marlowe, Humphrey. Bring back the all-stars at Bama. You can put Eddie Jackson and Minka over top. You give them 7 seconds, man.
Eventually it's going to break down. They're going to break down because they're reading the play, and then eventually once that receiver ad-libs,
what are you going to
do? What do you do about an ad-lib? If you see a receiver that you know is running an inside out and you know what that route is, so you're prepared for it, and he goes right back in immediately, after 7 seconds, you just can't do nothing about that. And so I think that was the biggest issue with our defense is the line wasn't getting consistent pressure to where we were not allowing 7 and 8 minute possessions, 7 to 8 second plays and throwing everybody off. So, but no, I'm stoked.
And I want to pick
what about you?
Off of this. So your last point. One thing I've been saying that I'm super interested for Oklahoma in the transfer portal is the interior defensive line for that exact same reason. And look, we can talk about some of the wins you got on the interior defensive line. Derek LeBlanc, I don't know whether y'all are going to use him more as an edge in that Venables scheme or whether you'll actually line him up as a big nasty. I think that he's going to be a really solid edge guy in that scheme. For reference, anybody listening, Bama does this as well. So you'll see guys on the Bama and they're defensive linemen, but they're technically edge guys. And then we have the Jaheim Otis that's huge, soaking up that middle. The crazy thing about LeBlanc is he's got the ability to do either, right? He's got the ability to do either. And I'm really interested to see what he does, where he ends up. That's a great get. When I'm talking about the biggest wins for Oklahoma, now y'all hear me out. Hear me out. I think it's Jackson Arnold.
You're not wrong. You're not. But you're not.
And here's the thing. I know that every Oklahoma fan is concerned about defense, deservedly so. Hear me out. You just lost Lincoln Riley, who, no matter how we talk about him, and we're going to get to USC and Lincoln Riley. Don't worry about that. No matter how you feel about him, he's a great offensive mind. I think that's the one thing we can all agree on, right?
One of the best in the game, period.
No matter how you feel, we can agree on that, and we can build the conversation off of that. However, there was a lot of question as to what Oklahoma was going to be able to recruit, not defensively, because when Brent Venables came in there, I think everybody was under the assumption that the defensive recruiting was going to increase in quality. So when it happens, it's impressive, but it's what I was expecting. Not saying I expected 2 5-stars on the defensive side instantly, 2 composite 5-stars on the defensive side instantly, but I expected the quality of defensive recruiting to exponentially increase. Can you say with full confidence that without Lincoln Riley, you expected to land a top 10 player that was a quarterback, a top quarterback in the nation? I mean, this kid is a top 10 player in all of high school football. Jackson Arnold won Elite 11 MVP and is going to Oklahoma without Lincoln Riley. That is impressive.
No, you're not wrong there. And he's a composite 5-star, which makes it, I'm sorry, a 5-star plus.
He's a 5-star.
So he's a 5-star plus. Everybody says he's a 5-star. And Rivals just gave it to him recently, right before early signing day, because they were just like, no.
All you got to do is watch him play.
You can't deny the talent. Just go watch him play. So I'll say this. This one, and Sooner fans, I really hope you all appreciate this. Appreciate the relationships that Jeff Lebby has created in his career, because this is exactly what this is. This was a relationship pool. Got blessed on this one, because outside of him, the ones that we have coming down the line, there's some solid quarterbacks. The top 50 guys. The top 50. They're not top 10 yet. And I think it's going to be just needing to see it more. And Lebby being really his quote unquote first time really running the offense himself. We got blessed here. Now, this is what makes this one a big one. And this is the only reason why I did not make him my number one, my best part about this, is because the expectation with him is that he's going to do very well, because he's running the exact same offense he ran in high school. The head coach at Denton Guyer worked with Lebby in the past. I think they worked together at Baylor. And this is the exact same offense. I was telling,
It's a good offense.
Yes, it's a great offense. I was telling, I told a couple people on my video, I was like, go watch Jackson Arnold, and the sets up the offense at the line. And who does he look like? He looks exactly like Dylan Gabriel. It's the same setup. It's the same gestures. It's the same motions. You can tell by they play the same. And the good thing is that Jackson Arnold is athletic as hell. He's not deceptively fast. He is fast. He's athletic as hell. So you're gonna get a faster version of Baker Mayfield with the accuracy that he has. He's not Kyler fast, but he is a faster version of Baker Mayfield, and he's got that chip on his shoulder. He's got that moxie, as everyone likes to call it, that he's going to be able to go out there and do some special stuff. So I knew that he was going to be good, especially because Lebby had been recruiting him at Ole Miss. So it was a saving grace. He wanted to come to Oklahoma from the beginning, and Lincoln Riley didn't even look at him, which is crazy to me. But I get it.
But because he had that every other year for the quarterback rule.
Well, he also had Malachi Nelson committed since December of last year, the year before. So when you already have Malachi, who is a top 5 quarterback, the unfortunate thing is that Lincoln Riley doesn't recognize that Nick Saban will go out and get 2 quarterbacks in the same cycle and say, "Hey, y'all compete."
Yep.
That's if you got 2 quarterbacks that want to come here in their top, and at the time Jackson Arnold wasn't even top 10 yet. Jackson Arnold was 4-star, mid-50s. You take advantage of that. You go ahead and say, you know what? We're going to bring 2 in. Malachi, you're my guy. We're going to bring somebody in for competition. We'll probably redshirt them, give them an opportunity to be right behind you, have them a year behind so that, because you're not going to be here for 4 years. You're going to be here maybe 3 because I'm going to get you to the NFL, just like I'm going to do for Caleb. You play that game. He didn't play that game, which is annoying, but whatevs. It happens. So, yeah, we know Jackson's going to be truth.
So that's my number one, right? Because there was questions, would you be able to maintain the offensive recruiting? Boom. You get a 5-star, top 10 guy for the 24/7 Sports composite. Unbelievable quarterback, won Elite 11 MVP. We go past that. We've talked about Peyton Bowen, easily the second best safety in the nation, I think. And look, I think that the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 safeties in this class, I think that the safety class here is really, really good. I think your top 10 safeties are all really good. Tony Mitchell with Alabama, Makari Vickers, another Oklahoma guy. Texas has one. Fantastic. It's a really good safety class. But landing Peyton Bowen, this guy is someone I could see coming in and making an impact. This is someone who could come in and make an impact. Yeah. A name that we didn't talk about, I'm not going to talk about Adebayor because I think you did a great job talking about him. Petaway, the wide receiver, number 66 in the nation, number 11 wide receiver. Guys, think how dumb this is. He is a top 75 player in high school football, and there are 11 wide receivers that rank in the top 75. That's how dumb this wide receiver class is. This kid right here has got it, man. This kid is going to be a slot demon here in a few years. We will be referring to him as Slotty Pippen, okay? This kid right here is going to terrorize defenses, and I can't wait for it. Especially with this Levy offense, it is going to be a lot of fun if he can get going. I love that one. A name that we've talked about before, right? But I think kind of flies under the radar here. And I'm going to go with transfer portal for y'all. Or not transfer portal, I'm sorry, JUCO. Oh. Kendall Dolby. Dolby. Top 10 JUCO player in the nation. Number 2 cornerback in JUCO. Number 1 in the state. Love his game. Not only that, guys, PG and Drew did an interview with him. It was fantastic. Great kid. Really excited to see what he does. But I think if you're the Oklahoma Sooners, you have got to be overwhelmingly excited. And let's play worst case scenario here for Oklahoma. Worst case scenario is you didn't land Peyton Bowen. You were still a top 10 recruiting class. Yep. So that's why whenever Peyton had originally committed to Oregon, we were like, hey, that's a hit. We're not going to sit here and lie to you and say that your class is better without Peyton Bowen. There's never been a recruiting class that's better without a guy like Peyton Bowen, a 5-star, right? It just doesn't happen. But you can't think that your recruiting class was lost because of the Peyton Bowen loss when you're still a top 10 class. Now, inevitably, you get him. But this just goes to prove Brent Venables' first full cycle, this class right here, really, really impressive. Guys, we're going to put a pin because there's going to be a counterpoint to this here in a few minutes, but we have a few more teams that won the day that we have to get to before we go to the guys that lost the day. My turn to pick our next team that won, and this team is kind of falling under the radar, Jay, which is really interesting. Really interesting. Number 2 recruiting class in the nation is Georgia, right? And Texas is another one that absolutely won the day. They absolutely won the day. That Texas recruiting class is insane. But let's check out Georgia here. They snagged Wilson, the number 2 edge rusher in the nation, 5-star, kept him away from Ohio State. That's a huge win. Not only that, they get Jordan Hall on signing day. I don't know if y'all have checked this class for Georgia, but it is really good. And then they went to the transfer portal and got 2 wide receivers from the transfer portal that I think people really, really need to be aware of. First and foremost, Ra Thomas, wide receiver, Mississippi State, going from Mississippi State to Georgia. 6'1", 185 pounds, big get. The one that I think is this one, Jay, I think this is dangerous. They get Levet from Missouri. Dominic Levet has transferred to Georgia.
Yep.
This
2 wide receivers. Good God.
This Georgia class, top to bottom, they won. They are a winner of early signing day. If you're asking me my favorite addition for them, I'm going to give you 2. Samuel Mpimba, I think, is one of the most intriguing athletes of this cycle. Really, really interesting guy. There was some question as to where he'd be able to play, not because of ability, because of so much ability. You get what I'm saying? Like he could play here. And then Wilson, 2 huge wins. I want to know your thoughts real quick. on the Georgia class.
Ooh-wee. So looking at Georgia, I think you just hit the nail on the head, man. They did it. They did it again. And the only reason why they didn't get number one is because Alabama's not in the conference in the playoffs this year. To be honest, I think that taking a little time away from Saban and the way he likes to recruit only hurts y'all a little bit because he can't do the focus he wants. He can't get the exact.
Yeah, he's complained about it before. You made the point earlier.
Yeah, that's his biggest complaint. But now he, at the time, he's able to go really do the way he wants to do it. In Georgia, that's the only reason why they truly missed out on that. I mean, because Kirby's smart. I see why Saban hung on to him for as long as he could and told him basically don't take a job unless you know it's a great one. Don't waste your time on all these jobs.
And he gets his alma mater.
Yes. Then he gets his alma mater.
Storybook, man. Storybook. One
that's consistently been a winner that just could not get over the hump. And he did it.
Yeah.
So for people to understand this, and we'll talk about Colorado in a bit too. Looks like we're going to probably go even long as we usually do, Ty, which I thoroughly love getting on here with you.
Guys, we always say before we go live, we'll keep it a tight hour today. And then we start talking and look up, and we are just now into our third winner. It's 36 minutes. The way I look at it, though, is I'd rather give people thorough information on these recruiting classes and really have the conversation than just simply say Georgia won and then move to the next team. Right.
Yeah. We like to. It is fun football dialogue, and y'all jumping in with the comments. We appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it. But yeah, as Damian mentioned, Anthony Evans getting snatched up by Georgia was smart on their part. Leveraging the mom being a Georgia fan her whole life and bringing him home there, and it makes sense. It makes sense being spending a lot of time in Georgia and doing that. So that was a good one. But looking at this Georgia class, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10, 11 top 100 players, 12, 13, 14 top 150, 16, 17, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22 of their, how many signees did they have? 25 are top 300 players.
Yeah.
This class is absurd.
It is.
And it's so hard
wild
to just focus on one. AJ Harris is going to be another, was it AJ Terrell? That was a corner for them.
Yeah.
You got yourself another guy out there. Samuel Mpemba. He may shock everybody. I mean, he's number 36 nationally on 24/7's composite. He probably should have been a little bit higher than that. He should have been probably a top 25 guy. He's going to do some shocking stuff. And it's funny because when you look at their class, it really is focused on defense.
Yeah.
Kirby says, F offense, man. We're going to find fast guys eventually. I want my defense to be the number one defense for the next 30 years.
Do you want to know the most terrifying thing about this Georgia class for me, Jay?
What you got?
It's someone who's not even in the class yet, and there's no guarantee that they land them. But a crystal ball was inserted in Georgia's favor. Chat, you're not going to guess for who. Deuce Robinson, the 5-star tight end, and the number 1 tight end in this class. If they get another damn tight end, I'm going to lose my mind.
I'm calling shenanigans. I'm calling shenanigans. It ain't shenanigans, but I'm calling it. Just because I'm going to be a hater.
You like so much? Shenanigans?
Did he say shenanigans? Oh, put those guns away. But yes, exactly. Oh my God. They do not need another tight end. And it's funny because it seems like their entire setup is literally to have just a whole bunch of big ass tight ends.
Bro, I swear to God, I would be running 12 to 13 personnel. I would be the worst. I would run 13 personnel, 12 personnel just to do this all game and be like, if you can't stop me, you're going to have a tough time, buddy, because I'm fixing to go right over your head.
We're moving to the flex and the wishbone if I was him.
And this is the thing. Gilbert hit the portal. And here's the thing, though, Matt. I don't necessarily blame Gilbert. You look, they have Oscar Delp, who is the number one tight end or maybe it's not Oscar. I know his last name was Delp, but he was the number one tight end in his class. They have Washington, who is the number one tight end in his class, 6'7", freakish athletic. And then there's Bowers. I mean, this is a wild tight end room. Just insane.
It's not fair. That's the point. It's just not fair.
Don't do this to me, Hank. Don't you dare do that.
Oh God. Yeah, I've seen that. Of course, they're crystal ball in South Carolina to him. Yeah, I think Georgia could probably snatch him up too. Just because they cheat, man. It's not fair. They're becoming tight end you. And they haven't even put any tight ends in the league yet like that.
Working says if Texas can get Deuce Robinson and not Georgia to be the steal, a lot of teams are after him, and God bless. Look, and I respect Georgia. I have a decent bit of love for Georgia. I don't want them to get Deuce Robinson because, damn, man, it's already tough enough to stop tight ends in the modern offense, and now you're stacking these dudes. Jeez.
And that's what it is. That's the thing I can give to Kirby Smart, and why I appreciated him is that he's looking at the future. He is seeing the struggle of how we're undersizing the defense now, how your defensive linemen have to be more nimble and fast because of the fast-paced offenses. Same thing with linebackers. So he's getting these big old athletic dudes, putting them at tight end and letting them go after 1,000 yards. Like, hey, race to 1,000, see who can get it first.
Savage, I'm sorry for you to hear me say y'all's tight end room. The last thing y'all need is Deuce Robinson. Now, if y'all get it, is good. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be the first one watching because I've got to see it. I've got to see how your offense continues to do this. And first off, round of applause for Monken, everybody. Todd Monken for Georgia, offensive coordinator. I know a lot of people focus on that defense. That Georgia offense is actually really efficient. Really efficient.
Man, have you the swagger that Stetson Bennett has now? After his first year, after last year, when we were questioning if he was even worth having on the field, and this year he just flings it. He doesn't care. He's just like, whatever. I'm Stetson Bennett. I'm gonna do my thing, which Savage. I appreciate. Savage. I don't think anything's toxic about Gilbert. I think the biggest thing with him is that
someone said something about wondering if Gilbert was toxic. And I don't think it's anything about that. I have no knowledge of anything about that. I just, like I said, I think it's a situation where you're in the deepest tight end room in the nation, and I don't think it's close.
Yeah. I see the comment. Yeah, my bad on that, Savage. But yeah, no, y'all, the tight end room is just stupid good, and it's not fair.
It's totally Savage. Y'all were absolutely a winner. Jay, give me your second winner of the day. So far we have Bama, Oklahoma, and Georgia. Who's your second winner?
All right. Don't crucify me, guys. Don't do it. Don't do it to me.
I agree.
And we're just gonna keep it honestly 100. In the top 5. It's Texas.
Yeah,
it's Texas.
Let's keep it 100.
Oh my God, Sarkisian and them are doing it. And when I look through their class, you start to see that they went after. They picked up three top 30 edges. They recognized one major problem that they had. They need correction. 4 top 200 defensive linemen. And our guy Nick over at Nino's Corner, go check out his channel. Fantastic Texas content. I'm a Texas hater. Of course, I'm always go horns down. But at the same time, I do appreciate great content and great information. He pointed this out about them. Just similar to Oklahoma. One of the big problems they had was at Texas is that their classes were high, but they were all skills positions. And skills positions aren't going to win you championships. You got to win it in the trenches. And the difference between Texas and Oklahoma is Oklahoma still recruited very well in the trenches, especially on the offensive line side. And so because of that, they started going after those defensive players. It's like, screw this. We're going to go up against Jackson Arnold next year, and this high-octane offense from Oklahoma and TCU, we've got to find a way to get bigger, stronger, and do the things that they do in the SEC today so that when we get in the SEC, we have those big guys. Snatching up Tassili Akana, my God, that was a fantastic fleece. Bravo, applause that y'all were able to get him to switch, because it looked like all things were pointing to Oklahoma. He was very close to Brent Venables. I'm wondering if Venables ended up focusing on another recruit at the same time, and it just didn't feel right for Akana, and I would appreciate that. Getting Vasic to flip, To be honest, I'm still trying to figure out how the hell y'all let him commit to Oklahoma in the first place. But whatever.
Yeah, I think the Vasek flip isn't necessarily surprising that he flipped, right?
Not at all. Not at all. But Darian Gillette, oh God. I'm terrified of that dude. 6'2", 220, has the frame to get to probably 250 easy and just be strong. Bosa size. He could be Bosa size and go out there and throw dudes around. He's just strong.
Yeah.
It's absurd. I think Sark is doing some stuff right. The question's going to be is if they can execute. But he has been focusing on the line. This past year was one of their better years on that. The interior line's getting better. They added interior linemen, outside linemen, but they added a ton of edge and linebackers, which to me told me that he knows what his problem is. He's going to get other positions. He's going to get skills. He's got skills, guys. He's going to get more of them in the portal if he really needs them or wants them. He's got his two quarterbacks in Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers. I'm curious to see who starts next year. As long as Sarkisian does not let the boosters run him out of town or run his program for him to where he wants to leave town, I think he'll be fine and they'll be competitive every year. I like when Texas is good. It looks better for Oklahoma when we clap that ass. So I don't want Texas to suck. I need Texas to be good. So when we beat them, we can say, yes, we beat them and they were good.
So
always feels good.
Picking off where you left off, man, whenever I was kind of talking about Texas this year, number one need they had for me was inside linebacker because they knew that they needed to address the edge. For those of you not aware, the edge in PK's scheme, it's the must. Like that's what his defense is really predicated off of. So that X and Jack linebacker positions, they've got to address it. They started so last year with guys like Justice Finkley, great guy out of the state of Alabama. Continued it this year. Love the names you talk about. Akana, you have Vasek, really great stuff. But their biggest need to me was inside linebacker, right? And they pulled the number one inside linebacker in the nation, Anthony Hill. Not only do they pull him, they keep him away from Texas A&M. And if you're a Texas fan, that's got to be a cherry, right? Like frightening, you're in here. That's got to be the cherry on top. It has to be. It just has to be. And in a year where you lose Bijan Robinson, my brother, you pull the number one running back in the nation, Cedric Baxter Jr. That's impressive. That is very impressive. Jonte Cook, very talented. Malik Muhammad, very talented. Derek Williams, very talented. You look at this Texas recruiting class, it is highly impressive. And I know one thing we always talk about, Jay, you made the point. I've got to also talk about it. This Texas class, last Texas class, they're recruiting with cohesion. And that is the thing that we did not see out of Tom Herman. That is the thing that we did not see so many staffs before that this staff is addressing. My biggest question for this staff is, like you said, the execution specifically. My biggest question for Sark, what are you going to do in the second half? Because that has been something that has terrorized you all year, is how are you going to make your second half adjustments? That's something that we just haven't seen him be able to really figure out. But the recruiting side of it, he's putting in Texas in more advantageous positions than I think we've seen in any time. What's up?
I'm sorry. I just saw Savage's message. I think that's quite hilarious. Texas is preparing for the SEC transition and Oklahoma will struggle coming in. No, Oklahoma will be actually better than Texas in the SEC. That's easily shown. We've done well against SEC teams, non-playoffs. The only teams that we lose to are like historically great.
Both of those teams, Savage and Fairness, are top 5 recruiting right now. So they're both they're
big
both
linemen,
building.
big defenders. Yeah. We've always had trench guys. That's the thing about it. We've always had trench guys. We just never had depth. That's the biggest difference. But yeah, so back on Texas, I have to just laugh at that. I mean, Savage has been hating on Oklahoma forever, so it's cool. I appreciate you. You're consistent. But no, Texas, yeah, they've addressed the issues we've seen that they had, and I like that you pointed out the Anthony Hill pickup. Yeah. That's definitely a cherry. You know, it's nothing better than just snatching up your mortal enemy that now, unfortunately, you're going to have to play against again after you said that you refuse to forever. I hope the rumor is true that Texas is going to the Big Ten just to avoid the A&M deal. Joke. That's a joke there, because I know that was a joke when I saw somebody make that stupid statement and the A&M board. But no, I'm excited to see them abuse their little brother for real for the next foreseeable future. I'm going to enjoy all of that. So
for my next winner, I'm going to package two of them real quick.
Okay.
Real quick. Because
give me a package deal.
TCU needs to be acknowledged here, guys. They're a top 25 recruiting class in the nation. And do you want to know why that's so impressive? Look at the guys they just lost. Right? I mean, you had Brian Carrington, who is working at TCU and is known as an ace recruiter, and he's not there anymore. Now, am I saying that TCU is one of the biggest winners of early signing period? That's not my contention here. But I do think that this is a recruiting class that needs to be acknowledged. Matt, you make a good point. Kansas is in the top 30. That's really solid work for them. You look at UCLA, they get a big one, but the team
that's
that
huge.
the Dante Moore one, that was a big one. The team that I'm going to kind of focus in on as a winner, it's almost an honorable mention. Okay. Because I don't know that I can put them in the same level as like Georgia and them, but we're going to talk about Miami real quick. I understand Cormani didn't sign, but if we look at what Miami got, look at the year they had. They're a top 5 recruiting class in the nation. Sure, Cormani hasn't signed yet. They signed the number 1 offensive tackle in the nation. They signed the number 2 offensive tackle in the nation. They have Jaden Wayne, who is considered a 5-star. They have Malik Bryant, who is considered one of the top linebackers. Riley Williams, a really coveted tight end from IMG. I mean, you look at this Miami class, it is really solid, even though Cormani didn't sign. I think we got to talk about it, man. It's a really solid class.
Yeah, it really is. That everything that they're doing down there at Miami is showing that they're back to being serious about football for a change. And we talked about this in the green room a few times. And for those that don't know, Miami is an academic institution. I mean, of course, all the colleges are, but no, Miami is. They consider them the Ivy League team of the South, like the School of the South. They have a fantastic medical program, revolutionary. They care about academics. And in order for the football team to get what they want, there's a reason why they don't have a football stadium. Miami said, hey, if y'all want stuff on the football side, y'all better generate that money on your own. All of our money coming in is for academics, and we focus on that. And so
Isn't it a research institute, or am I wrong?
Yeah, it's a research institute.
Gotcha.
It's world-renowned. It's big. Like, if you go look up Miami, you'll be like, oh, I did not realize that. Because only thing about Miami you think about is the U. You think about everything around football, all the fun and all the flashiness and all of that. That's not something that Miami wanted as an institution. They were just like, how the hell did we end up good at football? Like, this is not so yes, that's why it looks like a funeral at their home games, because they don't even have their own stadium. Yeah, I know you're laughing at that, but I saw it. I had to cackle too. No, they don't care about football. And so when the crypto deal hit, and one of their alum, Ruiz hit a couple, I think he had like $1 billion or a couple billion in crypto and sold. He basically told them, look, I will donate to the school more if you will put in some money on the football team with me, because I want my football team to be good again. And so the school was like, all right, we'll make a deal with you. They made a killing. Their medical systems made a killing in 2020. Unfortunately, they made a killing off of, the COVID situation. They were treating people like crazy. And so because of that, they're now focused on winning. And so getting this type of class, bringing in Mario Cristobal, who's always been a fantastic recruiter. His problem has never been recruiting. It's been coaching. He's one of those guys that brings them in. You just got to get them the right guys in the right system. I've always felt like Mario's biggest problem has always been is that he goes after the flashy star, the best player possible, but then it doesn't fit what he's trying to do. And like I said, talent can only outdo scheme so much. After a while, that stuff starts to rear its head, because college players are not NFL players. They miss assignments a lot more than you think. Yep. A lot of them are just so athletic that you don't recognize it. They miss way more assignments. And it's more so because they're young. And only a few transcendent players here or there can make up that without you really ever seeing it. But they all miss assignments quick. So if he can focus on getting the guys, and hopefully the guys he's got, 3 5-stars, 14 4-stars. I mean, as long as he is getting the guys that fits his scheme perfectly, I think they're going to be a threat in the ACC. I also think that Clemson's going down.
And it's the fact that he's able to successfully recruit Florida. Look at the class. Look at all the guys he's getting to keep home.
If Miami,
we were having the other conversation.
Miami, Florida, and Florida State, like LSU, can keep their in-state guys, top 10 classes every year.
It's ridiculous the talent they have, and that's why I think Miami needs to be talked about. Now, Jay, unless you have another winner, and if you do, by all means, let's dive into it. Okay,
I got two. I'm going to bundle two of them together just like you, and we'll go right into losers as we've spent our first hour talking about winners and having a blast with it is LSU and Tennessee. So Tennessee, of course, is riding high off of this season and how good that they did under Heupel in year 2, going from 7-5 to 11-2. I mean, having a fantastic year. Bringing in Nico. Ilama Eva. Yeah. Nico's going to be stupid good. He's considered the most physically talented quarterback in this class. 6'6", big-time volleyball player. Like, he could go play professional volleyball around the world. He's that athletic. He's going to be so good for Tennessee. But they added in players that they really needed. They added linemen. They added secondary. Heupel's over there building a sustainable winner long-term. And just like you talked about with Miami keeping guys in state, LSU did the same. Go look at that LSU class. It's a 7th-rate class, and the only reason why it dropped was because of Oklahoma. Now, they missed out on the Desmond Rick sweepstakes, which, of course hurts. But at the same time, they got Denver Harris to come over from the transfer portal. And they got a lot of transfer guys coming in. So when you go look at their transfers, you're just like, oh, you guys really want defenders on your team. And you're stealing everybody's defenders you can get your hands on. So overall, yeah, man, they're getting players from around the way, but they're also bringing in a lot of talent. That's what you got to do. The number 2 guy in the state, what's that? Zalance Hurd.
Yeah. So here's
big old lineman. There you go.
I want to address one thing. Uncle Joey 99 talking about one of the 24/7 sports writers. I saw the article in reference, and he was being very literal, Joey, as for early signing day that day, y'all not signing Kermani, who's a top 5 player in the nation, him delaying. I think that's where he put it. When we're talking about this, that's definitely a large percentage is what you were able to do over these 3 days, but we're also taking a holistic look. And so that's why I don't think I could have put Miami as a loser, even under those parameters, because of, like I said, you signed the number 1 offensive tackle in the nation, the number 2 offensive tackle in the nation. I've talked about some of the players y'all got. Y'all have a linebacker, Aguero, that I think is one of the most underrated prospects in the nation. Love watching his film. I'm going to talk quickly about Tennessee. Love Nicholas Iamaleava. 2 names I'm going to give you for Tennessee that I think the people need to keep an eye on. Devin Hobbs, defensive lineman, top 60 player in the nation. Number 2, Shandavian Bradley. 6'4.5", 209-pound edge. They put some weight on this kid. He's got some versatility. He is going to be really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's a good call.
And as far as LSU goes, man, it's LSU. You know what I mean? Coming off of the year they had, where they had an impressive year for the most part, if we're not counting that Texas A&M loss, right? Like if all LSU fans could get blipped like in Men in Black, and forget the Texas A&M game, I think they would all be so happy with their season, and especially year 1 with Brian Kelly, and deservedly so. I think that both of those teams, you make great points, man. Definitely worth being talked about. But now, you want to talk about what's worth talking about. So I know where you're going to go, right? I know where you're going to go. So I'm going to give you that one, right? And so I'm going to go a different route here. And it's tough for me to do this, man.
Ooh.
How do I put a team that finishes in the top 10 recruiting classes as a loser? How does he do that? That doesn't make any sense. Well, you're right. In a lot of ways, it doesn't. And that's why we really have to have a nuanced conversation about this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
This is one where I know that it's going to be a little shocking. Notre Dame. Notre Dame finishes as the number 8 recruiting class in the nation, and by all metrics, for Marcus Freeman, that's a great class, right? He's his first year head coach last year, second year full cycle. He lands a top 10 class in the nation. That in and of itself is impressive. But why are they a loser? Because of what could have been. At one point, this Notre Dame class was by far and about the number 1 class in the nation. They had Keon Keeley, the 5-star edge, who ended up decommitting, going to Alabama. They had Peyton Bowen, who ended up decommitting, going to Oklahoma. And then they also had a running back flip to Oregon on early signing day. It was a tough day for the Irish. And that's why I say it's crazy that I'm sitting here talking about a team that's in the top 10 and being like, hey, you lost. But when we think about what could have been, my goodness, man. That's tough. You had 2 5-stars locked up in this class. You have none now, right? You have none. Keon Keeley to Alabama, Peyton Bowen to Oklahoma. And the Bowen one undoubtedly hurts worse because that one happened. Mm-hmm. That one went the distance. Dylan Edwards. Good point, David. Thank you so much. David. I actually forgot.
Yeah, Dylan was another. He went to Colorado. Yeah.
Great call, David. Thank you so much. I genuinely forgot all about that flip. Proving my point further, when we look at what could have been, Notre Dame had a rough time. So that's my first loser, Notre Dame. What do you think about that?
No, you're right. And I was going through their class, and I'm David. Thank you for pointing out the Dylan Edwards. I was like, there's one more player they lost that they had locked up from jump, and I don't know what it is that's going on at Notre Dame that makes people feel like you know who else they lost out on, and this to me. I put it like this. They weren't really in the runnings, and I think that bothered me even more, was the McCullough brothers. Day and Deshaun. Their dad, Dalen, is a coach for Notre Dame right now. Like, Deshaun went to Indiana because his pops had the job there. He left there, went to running back coach at Notre Dame. You would have thought he would have been able to convince his boys to follow him there because, Day played high school ball in South Bend. I thought that they were going to go ahead and lock them up, keep them there, because that's a massive improvement on the defensive side with both of them, period. Instead, they come to Oklahoma. And I was in shock when I saw that. Now,
huge wins for the Sooners.
Now Dalen's story is fascinating. If you haven't seen 30 for 30 on him, about him, have you heard about this?
I haven't.
Ty? Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all quick Clips notes on it. If you haven't seen 30 for 30, I'll post the link in the comments later after the show when I go find it again. But they did a documentary on him. Dalen was adopted. He was adopted as a baby, and he stayed in the town that he was born in. Right, played ball, became a monster, and was recruited. I can't think of the guy's name that recruited him for the life of me, but he became like a real father figure to him, and he was really like there to really help him get going. Signed, went to go play college ball for him. Come to find out, the dude that was recruiting him is really his dad.
Wow.
Fascinating story. And neither it was just something weird about it, and then they figured it out, and I was like, wait, what? And lo and behold, when he found his birth mother, he found out about him being his father, and neither one of them knew. They just had an instant bond and progressed with each other. It's a fascinating story. When I saw it on 30 for 30 years ago,
I'm gonna watch that.
It was cool, but he tweeted it out recently, and I was like, "Oh my God, that was you!" Oh my God, I just was in shock, and it's a fascinating, fantastic, beautiful story of how it all. Yeah, because he didn't even know, like his dad didn't know, the recruiter didn't even know he existed, type deal. And so, yeah, I'll send it. Make sure y'all have it to check out, but definitely one to check out. Besides that, off of that was the thing that was crazy to me about the Notre Dame piece, is that they didn't keep the McCullough brothers, them losing all those recruits, no 5-stars in this class. I think they'll be fine, but at the same time, it's already hard enough to recruit to Notre Dame.
Already difficult enough.
You gotta clock in on some of these players that you can get that are kind of slam dunks, because you cannot let the low-hanging fruit get away. It's hard for them, and they just didn't make it easier for themselves.
Well, man, I think the time that the people have been waiting for is
I
here.
know. Y'all want it. Y'all want
My
it.
dog is scratching at the door, so I'm gonna go let her out real quick and pass it to you to get this kicked off. Jay, my big loser of the day was Notre Dame. Who is your big loser of the day?
The funny thing is that this is technically me and Ty's big loser for the day, but he decided to let me handle this one, and we all know it's USC. They got a 15 class. Their class is 15th. And they're still waiting to see if Deuce Robinson's going to choose them or not. And there's a good chance that Deuce won't. 3 5-stars. Their 3 5-stars were players that were committed to Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma. So it's not like he had to do much work to get them to flip and switch schools. The big complaint, and Matt made mention of this in the comments, is that his thing is that he couldn't recruit the players he needed to win in the playoffs in Oklahoma, and he can do that at USC. We've had 2 better classes than him in back-to-back years, and I think that the 24 class is going to be even better than his again. I'm curious to see what Lincoln Riley figures out. Now, his class isn't awful, but this is not the expectations that he said that he needed in order to win big. Now, he may be able to win the Pac-12, but I don't think he can win in the Pac-12, or he definitely won't win in the Big Ten with this type of class. You've got to pull some top 10 classes to get past the most important players in this, and the Michigans, the Ohio States, so Michigan, Ohio State. Honestly, Michigan State can recruit too. Like, Mel Tucker's going to get some players. He's not going to be the best. They're not going to win a bunch of games, but they're going to get the players. He's luckily that he got. I say this, and we've talked about this. Lincoln Riley is a very talented coach. He's a very talented recruiter as well for the most part. Malachi is going to be just fine. He's going to go out there. He's one of the physically gifted quarterbacks, 5-star plus. He's going to do some big things, and so is Zach Branch. They're both going to do some stupid. That combo is going to be crazy. And then add Makai Lemon. Those 3 total, his 5 stars, chef's kiss. They're going to be fantastic players. They're going to do some really big things on the offensive side. You cannot win long-term or deep in college football with the one-man show anymore. The last time we were able to see that was Cam Newton. He's the last one that's been able to do it. I haven't seen one do it since. That could just carry a team on their back by themselves without any other NFL caliber players on the team to go win anything. Haven't seen it. It doesn't exist anymore. You've got to have a solid defense, or your offense got to be so absurd that no one can stop you. And right now, Georgia's showing you can have an absurd offense. We're still going to stop you.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because Savage, you're making this point. USC is still going to win more than Oklahoma, but like you being a Georgia fan, you should be able, out of everybody, to look at the way Lincoln is building this class, the way Brent Venables is building that class, and as a Georgia fan, be like, these 2 are not the same. One is built for flash, the other is built for long time success.
Savage, I need to know, why do you hate Oklahoma so much? I'm curious. And that's no shade, it's no joke, no play. Team. That's a legitimate question of why, because you're saying that as if this one season just means everything long term, as if Oklahoma hasn't had a losing season since 1999. Like, we're one of the few schools. We have the second most, if not the most wins since 2000 in college football. Like, what makes you think this team is, what makes them bad? Oh, okay. That's fine. If that's the case, that's fair. That's fair. I just need to get to the bottom of it because I felt animosity there. And if that's the case, bro,
I love it.
We're good. We're good then. We're good.
This is what I love this. I just love him coming in with the honest answer because that's awesome. Like, that's a great answer. That's cool.
Thank you. I'll take it because you know what? I don't hate Georgia, but I sure don't like Sonny Michel or Nick Chubb because I was out there at the Rose Bowl in that second half. That game was the game that I turned against Lincoln Riley. You have the Heisman Trophy winner and you don't let him cook. So I'm not going to go too far into that, but Savage, thank you. You my dude now. We're here. We're here.
Yeah.
We're here now.
And for those of you guys, Savage, there's a level of gesturing here, right? Like this is all in good fun. That's a great answer. I love that.
I just wanted to know why, and then you gave me an honest one. I'll take it. But yeah, no, it's the Lincoln's going to get wins. He's going to get wins. He's going to get guys in the transfer portal. The question that we've asked, now that the transfer portal is a lot more open than it used to be, how sustainable is it going to be doing what they're doing? How sustainable is it going to be building teams on the transfer portal? We saw Mel Tucker struggles year 2. Year 1, he's able to get a whole bunch of transfers in and do magic. The next year, they flopped. And we've seen that with other teams as well that have one great year and then disappear. I'm curious to see how sustainable can you be with the transfer portal and not having a stable, because that was the one complaint all of us Sooner fans had about Lincoln Riley is we had these small classes.
16.
But the classes were still top 15. Like, that's absurd. Like, how do you have a top 15 class and you have like 15 kids in there? But that's the thing. That's the thing about it, is that he can bring in high-end skills positions, but the depth wasn't there to win long term. And that, to me, is what I want to see him do at USC. USC's a proud program. They also had another great recruiter there that didn't last, Lane Kiffin. And y'all can say anything you want to say. Lane was a big part of that Pete Carroll dynasty. He was a huge recruiter in there.
Huge.
Him and everybody else. And then remember, USC hired Lane Kiffin to get the whole package of recruiters back. And they got all of them. And then they fired him after he couldn't keep and maintain a bunch of wins. I want to see if Lincoln can do that.
I think Savage has a good point here, though.
Well, that's a damn good point. You're not lying.
So if that's your argument, Savage, for why USC will win more games, that's as logical as it gets. The Pac-12, and I think the Big 12 impressed everybody who watched this year.
I bow to you on that one.
Big 12, you were impressed. Let's be very honest. I'm as big of an SEC homer as you'll find. I love the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
But the Big 12 was fantastic this year. It was great.
Probably one of the better years since probably the mid 2010s when TCU and Baylor were really ramping up. RG3 winning Heisman and everybody was dog fighting their way through the conference. Yeah, it's SEC and the Big 12 were the toughest this year. Big 10 was dog water, and then the Pac-12 had some players, but they're growing. And we have to talk about this another time, the DJ Uyunglele going to Oregon State. That is a fascinating move in so many ways. Yeah. But outside of that, this class, not saying his class is bad.
It's not.
My issue that I've seen is that there's not much depth into what they really need. But they did diversify. This is probably the most diverse class I've seen out of them. I'll give you that.
Here's my biggest issue with it, man, because you're right. If any USC fans are in here, and look, I've even debated with some Oklahoma fans in here about the trajectory of Lincoln Riley and USC. I've been very complimentary about the Trojans this year, because as everything, I try and look at everything, as neutral and positive as I can. We'll talk about the negatives, but I want to first let you know the possibilities. My biggest issue with this class, man, is your 3 5-stars, they were all a part of this class whenever Lincoln was at Oklahoma. So that's nothing new, right? They committed to the individual over the institution. That's not uncommon. It happens. That's fine. Outside of that, I think we could argue that their biggest win is Braylon Shelby. Keeping him out, pulling him from the state of Texas is a huge win. There's no undermining that. Top 100 player in the nation coming in at number 76, the number 13 edge in the nation. Once again, guys, we're not even into the top 100 players in the nation. Number 13 edge is number 76 in the nation. This cycle, class of 2023, was phenomenal, top to bottom. So that's a huge win. I even like Tackett Curtis. I think the Tackett Curtis win is one of the more underrated wins of the cycle. Linebacker from Louisiana, top 115 player in the nation. Love him. Jay,
how the hell did Brian Kelly let him leave?
I don't know. That's the biggest that's one of the bigger losses for Brian Kelly, because Desmond Ricks is probably the biggest, but one of the bigger ones is Tackett Curtis. One of the bigger wins for Lincoln is Tackett Curtis. Here's the issue. You have one offensive tackle that's a top 300 guy, and that's cool, right? But in this entire class, you're not prioritizing the offensive line. And this was a really good offensive line class. This was a great offensive line class. Guys. I'm just going to go to the tackles right here. Ready? There are 21 tackles before we get to number 250 players in the nation. 21 tackles. They got one. They have got to be working on the trenches, and the defensive interior isn't much better. It's not like they're getting any meat in the defensive interior. Here's my issue, Jay. Here's my biggest issue. If you're Lincoln Riley and you go and you leave Oklahoma and you say, I don't have a problem with him saying, oh, I'm going to go to USC because I'm going to be able to get bigger and better recruits. I don't have a problem with that if you back it up. If you're going to say it, stand 10-toe. Back it up.
Yep.
It's the same thing I felt when everybody was good. Timothy, thank you so much. Great point here as well. Derek Williams is one that they would have loved to have kept home. Huge win by the Longhorns. But that's a very good point, Timothy. Thank you very much. That one went right over my head.
That and Arch Manning, but Arch Manning was more of a high profile situation in comparison to. Yeah,
I don't put that one as much on LSU. I think Texas was always in a really good position for Arch. I think teams like Alabama, teams like Ole Miss, right? That was kind of the writing on the wall. But great point, Timothy. Completely forgot about that. The thing is, man, I felt the same way in the NFL the year where Cam Newton won the MVP. I don't know if y'all remember, but the year Cam Newton won the MVP, all these defensive players in the NFL were complaining. They were mad at Cam Newton's dancing celebrations, and they thought it was disrespectful. Jay, you want to know why that fired me up? Because the game of football is a little bit unique, and it's a beautiful game because if you don't like Cam Newton dancing, stop him. Tackle him. You want to know what game Cam Newton didn't dance in? The damn Super Bowl. You want to know why? Because they stopped him.
They tackled him.
Of grown men. You said something by Cam Newton dancing. He's saying, I'm the best. Don't feel personally attacked. Do something. Stop him. Lincoln, if you're going to make the claim, don't be a paper champion. Do something. Stand 10 toes. You're at USC and you didn't land the class. I would have no issue with Lincoln not landing a top 10 recruiting class in the nation if he didn't make the point of saying, I'm going to leave OU to go here because I can get better recruits there. And then a first-year damn head coach comes in there and out-recruits you.
2 years in a row.
How?
Now, last year,
no, I will be generous. I will be so generous that I am willing to throw out last year because he inherited Clay Helton's mess. Brent Venables inherited Lincoln Riley's mess. At that point, if you're looking, Oklahoma is at the time a better brand and still is a better brand than USC as we currently sit here and speak. This one right here is, I think, what we weigh. An entire cycle. And you said, I'm going here so that I can get my guys and I can recruit better. You're not a first-year head coach, and you just got beat on the trail by a first-year head coach. When that team went 6-6, USC was almost playoff bound. You got beat by a team that went 6-6 and the team you burned. Come on, man. And I've been defending Lincoln, but come on. You got nothing but space and opportunity out there to get these big-time players. What in the world?
Nothing but space and opportunity. Everything's there in front of you, in your hands. You've got all the resources. Everybody's pouring money into the school. And so talking about LSU, that Derek Williams was a big loss. But the one thing I'll give to what they did, and this is the only reason why I said that Brian Kelly will win a national championship at LSU, mainly because LSU has had 3 head coaches win national championships in the last 20 years, and only one of them is actually a good coach. And it was because they recruited at home. They got 10 of the top 25 players in Louisiana.
And that's impressive because Nick Saban has a camp set up in Louisiana.
He tries his hardest to live in Louisiana because of that. And Saban got 1 top 25 player from Louisiana.
Boom.
USC was still 1. Texas got 2. But LSU lived in their backyard. I said this when he first got the job. I told people, Brian Kelly can step on his front porch, throw a rock, and hit about 10 5-stars. Potential 5-stars. Because of the talent is so fertile in Louisiana. And football is life. And there's so many people. And it's a different breed of people down there. And they're those guys. So because of that, Yeah, and that's another good point, Matthew, is USC's got the money. They've got everything. They've got the backing, everything that they said that they needed in order to be successful. And
And
I'm
the only reason I
disappointed in
didn't
this
bring it up
class.
is I don't know what it looks like. I don't know exactly the dollars and cents amount they're playing. But Matthew, you're right.
Well, you can't.
That's the
Yeah.
only reason I didn't bring it up.
And you can't because they're a private institution and they can keep all that stuff secret, which is fantastic on their part. I expected them to do a lot better than I expected them to have at least a top 10 class this year. Top 15 to me is just that is not what we were expecting. Now, once they get their transfer portal guys in, they may have an overall top 5 class again. Well, top 6 last year. They may end up top 10 at that point. They're right now number 11 overall because they have a pretty solid transfer side. But the question we've asked, how sustainable is the transfer portal? But now, if anything...
They missed on a huge name that they needed in the transfer portal. Javion Cohen was a starter at Alabama, ended up not playing part of the year due to mental health concerns, really hoping he got everything right. He's very talented. He transfers to Miami. Miami got 2 offensive tackles that were the 5-star guys. Miami didn't need any more they needed more offensive line help, but you get my point here. If we're talking about necessity, Miami is out here balling in the recruiting class, getting offensive tackles left, right, and center. You have got to have something, and you get nothing in the transfer portal yet. I don't get it. I don't understand. There's a disconnect.
I mean, they've picked up 6 players in the portal so far, and 3 of them came from Arizona. Like, I like the Dorian Singer pickup.
Great pickup.
Singer's a fantastic pickup. Oklahoma, we're looking at him. And Mason Cobb from Oklahoma State. I think that he's a good pickup at linebacker. But that one was the funniest one because he never recruited in Oklahoma, really. He didn't go after the Oklahoma talent. Josh Jacobs was in his backyard right there for him to have. He wanted to come to Oklahoma. You know how excited he was playing against Oklahoma in that playoff game?
Oh,
he wanted to destroy Oklahoma, and he did.
Yeah, and he did.
Good old Josh Jacobs. But outside of that, that's the one that's the one that I expected to be a lot higher than what it is. So I'm guessing his plan is to go a mixture of both.
It's got to be
transfer and commits. And if that's the case, more power. I'm very intrigued to see how sustainable it is.
It almost feels like they're trying to build on a year by year basis, instead of trying to build something that's going to be lasting, right? And maybe it's, from the outside looking in because I don't know what the bones of USC looks like. So maybe, Lincoln has the better idea. Maybe he's on the right track and we're wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'll certainly take that possibility. Right?
Leave this comment up because this one this comment up you get up is so spot on. And y'all know why, right? I mean, I hope people on here, I'm looking through some of these comments to try to make sure people understand why he is the Pope and why he's so beloved walking in there. He won the national championship in 2003. And the only reason why he left LSU, the only reason why, and Alabama fans love this part of it, is he wanted to test out the NFL. And Alabama fans have been praising the ground that the Miami Dolphins medical staff walks on ever since then. They love the Miami Dolphins medical staff.
As an Alabama fan, that's
much. As an Alabama fan, they're the greatest people ever. They're the greatest people ever. And if y'all don't understand the joke, I'll explain it real quick. The Miami Dolphins front office, their medical staff did not clear Drew Brees to sign with the Dolphins when he left the San Diego Chargers. If they would have cleared him to go and play for Nick Saban,
because he ran the Wildcat that year, pretty much exclusively.
With Ronnie Brown.
Yeah.
Auburn running back, which is even more fascinating. But yes,
right.
They had to run that because they had no quarterback play. And if Drew Brees would have went there, he would have never left. And Alabama would have been hoping to find that next Saban. Probably found somebody to be successful, but not as successful as what Nick is.
There's only one Nick. Man, and this is the thing. Last little pin I'll give to USC. I'm not saying your class is bad. If there's any USC fans in here, your class isn't bad. The reason why you're a big loser on the day is I don't think you addressed a lot of the needs you had first and foremost. Still impressive that you're able to lay on this class right here without addressing any of the needs you had. But secondly, I am so competitive that if I were Lincoln Riley and I were to say, I got to leave OU to go to USC so I can recruit better, recruiting would be my national championship. Over my cold body, Brent Venables would recruit better than me if I was Lincoln Riley. Like, I would be telling the administration, cut a check. Take some of my, I don't care. I am not losing this because I will feel silly. If I look up and a first-year head coach that went 6-6 that I just came from that organization and said, I can't recruit there, beat me in recruiting. I'm going to feel silly.
Yep. Look, go pick up Booker's rebirth comment on USC being historical. That one right there is the one reason why I've hated USC for like years. And it's more of a jester type hate, more of a banter as a sports fan, is that their defenses under Pete Carroll were absurd. They were absurdly good. And they were hard hitters. They were everywhere. They had so much talent that they were just the most talented teams during their dynasty on the field, period. Like, most of their scheme didn't need to exist because they was just that heads and shoulders. Kind of like the way Alabama played over the last like 7 or 8 years before really the Georgia started to come up. It was just so talented. I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
And
God.
I think that's how else do we leave it, right? Look at this. Another first-year head coach in your division, Dan Lanning, who had a 5-star flip away from him.
He lost 2, if you technically think about it. Dante Moore bounced, and then Peyton Bowen right after.
And he still finished higher. Come on, man.
And so, I don't like dogging hardcore on, and I don't want to sound like a scorned girlfriend or anything when it comes to Riley.
We're talking about recruiting. It doesn't matter if you're an OU fan, an Oregon fan, a Utah fan. We're talking about recruiting. And the statements he made, they're not our statements. So there's no bias in what we're saying.
They're 100% what he was saying. And it shocked. I think the biggest thing is that it shocked all of us as football fans that he said that. It's like, wait a minute. You can't recruit to Oklahoma? How was Bob Stoops doing it for so long? How were you doing it with Bob Stoops for so long?
But then why does Oklahoma have one of the most talented rosters in the nation?
Every year. ESPN still has them rated as a top 25 team, even at 6-6, by just talent itself. A few of the Vegas projections have them honestly top 20 in the country just off talent itself. And I told you the one thing, and this is where the nuance comes in. This is why I love talking to you, Todd, because you totally get this and you can explain it even better than me most of the time. Scheme sometimes takes out talent. Too much thinking for kids. If any of y'all have children, if you have any children under the age of 18 years old, give your kid 3 things to do and tell me if all 3 things happen. Because I promise you, they will stop at about 2. and that has been researched scientifically. I've read a few articles on it, and they all say the same thing. It's like, give your kids about 2 things to do at once, and they'll be able to knock them out. If you give them that 3rd thing for some weird reason, it throws everything off. And think about that with 18 to 22-year-olds. It's no different.
Now, Jay, do you know because for whatever reason, this call that Matthew's referencing goes right over my head. What year is this in reference to?
We're an obvious PI no call in the end zone from going to the playoffs. That was the Oklahoma State game, wasn't it?
That was the Rattler year then, yeah?
Is that the Rattler year? I'm trying to remember. There's been so many crazy stuff that's happened in the Sooner era. Matthew, what year was that? I can't remember. I know what you're talking about.
I'm just curious, Matthew. I'm just.
But curious. If they won the Big 12 that year, yeah, Oklahoma State, yeah. That
so not
that was the Michigan and Cincinnati playoffs.
So last year.
Oh yeah, last year. Oh, we would have got our asses handed to us by Georgia.
Yeah, y'all would have gotten ransacked.
Yeah, we got ransacked by Georgia that game. Yeah. Or Alabama, honestly. Both of them one of them would have destroyed us easily.
I've PG and I have had this debate because PG said that same thing, like, oh, I thought we could have done something. And I'm like, I mean, y'all were very talented, no doubt. But like, I mean, here's my thing. Whenever you look at what Oklahoma did that year against the best defense they saw, Iowa State, Caleb didn't have 100 yards. Guys, there's a massive world of difference between that Iowa State defense and that Georgia defense. You don't have 100 yards against Iowa State. I don't know what you're going to do when you face that dog defense. Jalen Carter and all them are on the line. My word, it's a different animal. So I think you could have been good, but that just schematically speaking, that wasn't a good matchup for the way Georgia was built that year, specifically Georgia, because of the way their defense was built. So yeah, it would have been interesting, no doubt about it. I have one more loser for you, Jay. Just one.
Ooh, one more. Okay, let's keep it going. My longest stream, guys. Thank y'all for sticking around. Hit the like, subscribe, bell notification. What up, Drew?
Drew's in here. Good to see Drew. Good to see. My last loser, man, is Texas A&M. And here's the reason. Texas A&M sits at number 14. Is it a bad class? No. Not by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Top 15 class. There's nothing wrong with having a top 15 class.
And this is almost like my honorable mention as a loser. You know what I mean? Where I can't quite put you there with full confidence because you got Hicks. You flipped Ruben Owens. It's just the way your season went, the way your last class went, and when the way the exodus happened. They have 17 guys. It's just a little odd. That's all. That's really it.
No, yeah, I agree. The Hicks and Damian Sanford combo was going to be solid. They were able to flip Micah Tease from Arkansas.
Big win.
That was a huge win. I mean, he's a Tulsa boy. Booker T. Washington went there, their factory. And then getting Ruben Owens like that.
Then the transfer. Make no mistake, I'm not putting them in the losers category, but they are my honorable mention, right?
No, they are. They are. I agree. They have 17 signatures.
Yeah, they're a team that's interesting to look at. Tony Grimes out the transfer portal. Good addition.
That's huge. And I think that's a good consolation to Denver leaving. But he's not Denver Harris.
Yeah, I agree. And I think Grimes is a great cornerback. Denver wild. I'll tell you someone they have in this class I really like. I want to give him some shine here because I never see anybody talk about him. Dalton Brooks from Shiner.
Ooh.
He's rated as an athlete, rated as a running back, 6'1", 187 pounds. I think this kid is unbelievable. I think if there was one kid from that class as an Alabama fan, I was like, I'd really like to get in there and sneak him out of there. It would be Dalton Brooks, man. The Brooks family is very athletic, frightening. I'll have to tell you, Jonathan's his cousin. His other cousin plays college football as well for a smaller program, Doug Brooks. But Doug Brooks, whenever they won that state championship game, because Doug and Dalton played for Shiner, both of them played for Shiner, Doug Brooks was the defensive MVP, and Dalton Brooks was the offensive MVP.
Tells you everything you need to know.
Really talented. So A&M is kind of my honorable mention. Baylor is another kind of honorable mention where I can't quite in full confidence say, hey, this is a loser. This is just like a team that's a loser, but you had your 4-star quarterback flip, Austin Novosad. That was a huge deal.
And the fact that they let TCU have a better class than them. Dave Aranda is a better coach than this, and this is not going to be... They won't continue long-term success only having top 35 classes.
Ooh, Drew shoots 2 that we have not talked about completely.
Ole Miss.
Love these.
Ooh.
I think that's what I mean, though, frightening. I can't quite say they're like a loser, but
awful.
They're my honorable mention. And yeah, in teams that are like, this should have been better than it was. It's tough. I can understand any Baylor pushback. I would be completely open to any Baylor pushback for sure. Even some A&M. I would be open to some A&M pushback as well. I would, because like I said, and to your point, Truth, I can say this class is a little bit disappointing. It sits outside the top 10. It's a small class. It is a small class. Now, Matt, here's one. Interested in hearing from you on just this. OK State. 85th.
So I'll say this, and I hate to say this in the defense of Gundy, but this is par for the course for him. He doesn't get super high classes. He's
Does
good
it
at
worry you with the Exodus?
the Exodus did worry me. That to me that's your red flag, especially when you're losing starters. We talked about this before. When you're losing starters to the portal, high contributors, you've got a problem with coaching. It's more it's a front office issue. There's something else going on there for those kids to want to leave. Like, perfect example, Alabama. And we talked about this, and I had curiosities about it, but I didn't think it was an issue because there was a lot of players that were just losing out on injury. Then they just lose their spot because the
It's
next guy
Alabama.
up
Yeah.
was the next guy up. It's Alabama. And so they lost out that way. And so I'm like, okay, I'm just curious to what is the real problem going on there. With Oklahoma State, they're losing some actual contributors on that team. And then they're not recruiting any other to replace them. Now, like I said, I give Gundy this, that they do a fantastic job of development. That's the one thing about those teams that he's had over the years is they've been really good at winning games. They're just not someone that can get over the hump overall because they're going to need better classes. You got to have better athletes. And that athletes are good. They just need better, or they're just not using them right. One of the two. But Presley, yeah, that exactly, GTG. That was my point. There's something else going on there. Now, the question is how much longer is Gundy going to be able to survive this? I mean, they keep paying him more money for some reason instead of paying the guys that they need to pay. So we'll see.
It's so wild to me. Because when we look at the development that Gundy and Oklahoma State do, and I don't think a lot of people really notice this, really dive in to the development that happens. Polkston. Interesting.
Yeah. Do you know how many Polk fans that I know I follow a few on Twitter. I got a few friends that graduated from there because I'm from Oklahoma. And that was the one thing they all pointed out. Gundy looked like he didn't care. Well, like he was not interested in the game that they are interested in. All their fan bases, the school, the game that pisses everybody off every single year, even though it's not a rivalry, but it's a rivalry, but just because of proximity. We can talk noise back and forth every year. I think that dude would have been gone if T Boone was still alive. And honestly, I heard that
maybe it'd benefit him.
As much money in the school anymore. Well, that too. It could put a fire underneath him.
Yeah, maybe it could benefit him. I don't know.
But yeah, he looked like he didn't care. He just looked meh.
He looks like Patterson.
And yeah, Hank, you're right. He looked like Gary Patterson when he left TCU. Gary Patterson doing some special stuff at Texas, though. I'll tell you that now. Like, say what you want. That defense is Gary Patterson's defense. And that's what terrifies me about for Oklahoma in the future. That's a Gary Patterson defense. And his defense is always good at TCU, period.
Robert, what do you...
The Grimes transferred to Texas? Texas A&M? He must be playing catch up.
Yeah.
Totally get you.
Grimes. Gotcha. I don't know why we were talking about Oklahoma stuff and I didn't know it. Yeah.
That was A&M from earlier. Yeah, we talked about that. But yeah, no. But State having an 85 class, that's par for the course. They've done a very good job of developing, and I'm honestly curious to see what
UCF.
What happens long term for them. I'm wondering if Gundy's going to make it.
And you want to know, as we kind of transition off the winners and losers, now we kind of need to get into not only some transfer portal stuff. I do want to talk about some Colorado stuff, but I kind of want to talk about this comment right here quickly. Just UCF in general. The Big 12 is going to look a lot different here very soon. And I think that the Big 12 made some great additions. You look at BYU. They just got a huge transfer portal acquisition today, guys. Keaton Slovis to BYU.
Oh, that's big. Yeah, I saw that.
So you look at BYU, you look at UCF, you look at Houston, you look at Cincinnati. The Big 12 is adding in really cool brands. Your Fave 5 had saying stuff about UCLA. UCLA is out here having themselves a time, my friend. The Dante Moore edition Huge.
Chip freaking Kelly. Y'all forget, man. I think the best thing UCLA did was keep him around.
Yeah.
Let him progress. They took their time. And that's something that schools don't do very often. And it's funny. And I say that because I saw a article. Actually, it was an article on ESPN earlier this week. And the NFL has sent a memo to the teams in the league and told them that over the last, so I think it was 2015, the teams have spent upwards of $80 million on front office personnel. So that point of that statement, see you later, blood, be good. The reason why I point that out is that the NFL were telling them that you're moving too quickly on these front offices and coaches. You're doing it too quickly. By doing this, all you're doing is keeping yourself in purgatory, and it's not going to work long term. You're costing yourself money. Crabs in a bucket. Crabs in a bucket. Joel Klatt pointed this out like 2 years ago. In 1 year, college football was paying almost $100 million to coaches to not coach that season. $100 million.
Wow. They could pay me
one season for that year. And that didn't include the next set of years that was following behind it. But that 1 year, the total was almost $100 million. So that tells you something right there. You can't move on too fast. You can't be paying these huge long-term contracts and they're not seeing them through. I get when the team's losing, really, unless your team goes 1-11, 2-10, there's no reason to fire your coach. And UCLA did it right. They let Chip Kelly stick around, figure out what he's doing, get the guys he really wants, and guess what? They're doing big stuff.
No doubt about it. Now, one thing, Hawaiian, where do you see Tulane is sitting at number 14?
Is that overall, or is that
because number 14
maybe including
for me
transfers?
On the composite is Texas A&M.
Yeah, I got Penn State on the on that. You're right. Let me see. Let me go look.
I don't have Tulane as a top 20 on 24/7 Sports Composite. Oh,
I got Penn State.
AP ranking.
Oh,
AP. Gotcha.
Yeah. We gotta talk about bowl games later. Yeah,
that's completely my fault, Hawaiian. I'm bird brained right now. That's my bad.
We've been focused on recruiting all day. That I was actually jumping on 3 site and just to see if anybody else had it differently or something. Like what?
Completely my bad, man. I'm so bird brained into recruiting right now. Yeah, no, that's on me. No, I completely agree, Hawaiian. And Jay and I have actually had this conversation, ironically enough, that we think Tulane is one of the more impressive teams out there. They are a really, really solid team. Really solid team. Completely agree. They're underrated. No doubt.
Yep. And they have their entire team is Louisiana boys.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of guys that are underrated, under
some type of way.
Yeah. And Tulane's a really hard school to get into too. So academically, that's not usually a problem. They're a pretty good institution, especially around medicine and everything. So, big research. But yeah, and they're very physical. Yes, they are.
Very physical.
When they beat Kansas State at the beginning of the season, and then Oklahoma lost to K-State, everybody was like, y'all lost to a team that lost to Tulane. I was like, we almost lost to Tulane last year. And then go see what they're doing. They're going to have a really good
Jeffrey
year.
Johnson did against y'all last year.
Oh my God, he abused us.
Yeah, he was very, very, very good. Very impressive.
So
I want to talk about impressive, man. There's a lot of hype. There's a lot of talk around Colorado.
We had to get into this. We got to
talk about it. Right, it's the biggest news in college football. That's what we do. We talk college football. Coach Prime out there doing it big. There's some names, y'all, that they're in contention for. They had a good signing day. I know people are probably thinking they didn't have as good of a day as people would have wanted, but we got to remember, Colorado's coming off of a terrible year. And in no world would anybody think that Coach Prime and them, I'll put it like this, guys. A year ago this time, we're all laughing if someone told us, hey, they're going to flip blue chip running back Dylan Edwards from Notre Dame.
Yeah, Dylan Edwards, and they grabbed 4-star wide receiver Adam Hopkins.
They're gonna
out of Georgia, out of the state of Georgia.
No, everybody's gonna look at you and laugh, right? If you say Colorado is gonna do that, but they did instantly. This is a program we have got to watch. Jay, what are you thinking? Recruiting, early signing period done, still plenty of time left, but not only recruiting, transfer portal.
There's so much to say about Colorado. I did a video earlier in the week as we were in quiet period, so it was a good time to talk about some of the transfers that they got. They had over 20 players at their final weekend before quiet period and early signing day this past weekend. And that's crazy nuts. Deion flew in after the Celebration Bowl, and there's just recruits everywhere. From 23 class, 24 class, transfer guys. And then they walked out of there with 4 commitments immediately from Vontae Bentley from Clemson. That one shocked the hell out of me because that dude was like this with Todd Bates. I thought that was a Oklahoma lock. He's like, nah, I'm gonna go up here to the Mile High and go do some things. That was a huge pickup. Tosh Austin from West Virginia. I watched him do some stuff to Oklahoma this past season. And then, of course, bringing their slew of players from Jackson State, them being able to get 2 4-stars immediately, and now they're in the conversation with Cormani McClain, tells me everything I need to know about what's going to happen with Coach Prime in Colorado. The dude's going to pull in some classes. He's right now 53 in the composite, 30th overall, including transfers. And I think that by the end of this cycle, he'll be a top 20 overall class with transfers and recruits because, yeah.
Well, there's a
Coach
name
Prime
that could put them, if they get, it will instantly vault them really significantly. And they had a crystal ball inserted in their favor. Amarian Miller, North Caddo, Louisiana, 6'2", 190 pounds. And the dude is really freaky. I don't know how Louisiana is going to let him out of their state. This cat is different, Jay. Can high point the ball, sneaky fast, sneaky bursty, really, 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 really good wide receiver. He's crystal balled to Colorado.
Yep.
Otis asks, can he coach? Otis, yeah, he can coach.
He can coach.
Yeah.
He can coach. Now think about it this way, and it's the thing to understand when it comes to talking about the coaching ability of a coach. No matter what level you are, you're usually coaching against people at the same level as you. The question is can you beat the people that you're playing against? Now, this past season is when he had all this additional talent that came in, like the Travis Hunters of the world. But overall, they were playing comparable talent to other HBCU schools.
They lost 1 game this year.
And they played really good. They played the one thing that shocked me. Hell, that drop touchdown is the only reason why they lost the Celebration Bowl. They overall played really, really good, disciplined football. But that's also the thing about Deion, too. You got to remember, even as flashy as he was as a player, dude was disciplined as hell. He knew his spot. He knew where to be. And he also knew where the quarterback was going to throw the ball because he knew film. Like, if you go DBs all time, I fight with him and Ed Reed as my greatest, just in DB world, because Ed Reed was such a film rat that he knew how to trick guys like Peyton Manning into throwing him the ball. Yeah. And that's impossible. I put it like this. When you see Bill Belichick gushing over you, like he just adores you, loves you, like he just gushes over Ed Reed. And that one play he did, he dropped back. He knew what Peyton was going to do. And this is kind of an indictment of Peyton Manning when it comes to going into the playoffs, not to go too deep into philosophies of NFL or whatnot. But
the one problem
that
take as much
Peyton,
time as you need.
The biggest problem that defenders and offensive Manning is that he only has one issue, is that everything in his offense is right here. There's limits to how much you can put here. And so he gets there and he basically sets his offense when he gets there. At a certain point, you're going to have, that's a good argument. I'm not going to, we'll talk about that another time.
I have Prime as my number one, but I'm not mad at this answer.
Exactly. Can't complain about it. But at a certain point, the decisions that Peyton's going to make is going to get repetitive. You're going to reuse things. Everybody's a creature of habit. Irregardless of how you want to say you're not, you are. You're a creature of habit. You're going to do similar things that you always do. And so Ed Reed stepped back and he knew what was going to happen. So what he did was he defensively shifted. And Dominique Foxworth tells this story because he was in the play every time I hear it. He's like, I was in the play, but I did nothing about it. But what Ed told him is like, I want you to stay where you're at. I know where Peyton's going to go, and I need you to suck him in. And he was like, all right. So when the play happened, Dominique Foxworth moved up like he was, going to play up on the wide receiver. And as soon as he did that, Ed went the opposite side of the field. He never looked at Peyton at all. But Peyton was like, that route's open, wide open, deep. I'm going to do it. So as soon as he calculated in his mind, he looked over, Peyton's about to throw it. He turned his hips around, went the opposite direction, interception right on the spot. Craziest play, and Bill Belichick just gushes over how he tricked Peyton Manning into throwing it to him, even though Peyton knows how good Ed Reed is in the world. And I love it. It's one of those you love, but y'all giving some names. Hey man, y'all can throw names all you want to. I'm gonna put it like this. Primetime's mine. I can still argue for Champ. I can argue for Rod Woodson. I love Rod Woodson growing up. My cousin introduced me to Rod Woodson.
No love for Night Train Lane?
Yeah, no, I got love for Night Train Lane. I got no love for Night Train Lane, but my cousin introduced me to Rod Woodson on John Madden 95. I would pick Deion in the Falcons, so he picked the Steelers and Rod Woodson. And he would do to me what I would do to him on the return game. And I'm just like, man, who the hell is this dude? He's like, oh, don't worry about it. And then I saw it, I was like, oh, it's Rod Woodson.
It's Rod Woodson. Charles Woodson. We got a Revis. Guys, yeah, this is an awesome conversation. No doubt.
Oh, I love it. There's so many things we can. There's so many factors that go into it.
Night Train Lane.
Too much.
I am offended.
You shouldn't be, Todd.
No love for Night Train Lane. That's like us talking about. Well, I mean, I get it. What's crazy to me? Whenever we're talking about the greatest safeties to ever play the game. Statistically, one of the names you have to throw out there, and y'all are going to be astounded because this is well before my time. Y'all want to know how obsessed with football I am? Paul Krause for the Minnesota Vikings way back in the gap. Most interceptions from the safety position, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Throw Krause and Ronnie Lott out there. You got some conversations that's going to go down.
Wasn't he like 6 foot? He was huge. He was huge. Now, I'm not saying he'd work in today's NFL. Not my contention here. But it's just these cool players from the past. Once again, not arguing that he's better than Revis. I think Revis is about the best safety that's ever played the game.
Shansta. That's what I was talking about. That particular play was when Belichick was gushing over Ed Reed tricking Peyton Manning into doing that play. It was just he was gushing over that dude. It was amazing. And he's one of those, and that's the one thing. Belichick doesn't just gush over guys like that. And he did. So anyway, my point as we go through all of this is that cut that pinky off, the tip of his pinky off. Disgusting story. But that's the point, is that Deion's gonna he can coach. He was always a film rat. As Showtime and Primetime as he was, he still cared about that film, and you could see it in the discipline in the players at Jackson State. You could see it. It wasn't perfect because they're young and they're not as skilled, but I think that he's gonna bring in the talent to Colorado, and I think he's going to be able to coach them well. Now, this is the one thing for Colorado fans. Now, Buffs fans, if you're in here watching or whatnot, and you guys have been sticking around for us for almost 2 hours, thank you. We didn't expect to go this long. This has been fantastic.
No, we were supposed to go an hour tight, and here we are.
Hey, right, that was the goal, but we get going. But I think the biggest thing for Colorado Buffs fans to understand is that there's a really good chance, unless you guys up that ante, you might lose him. He's going to take another job. He's going to take the money. Yeah, Sean Taylor is another one. That's on my list. I mean, I was a lot higher on John Lynch than a lot of people were too. I'm also a Bucks fan. I'm a Bucks fan too, but I love John Lynch. Good God, he was everywhere. You needed him to be, and he was a hitter. I think I have a soft spot on the safety position hitters more so than I do coverage guys. That's probably why a lot of people don't get as much love. Woodson was a hitter. I liked hitters a lot. I was always a big hitter. I was a big hitter, but I think that's the thing that's going to help Primetime is he being that film guy that he is, he's going to pass that down to those players. And I think Colorado's going to be successful quick. And then the question's going to be is, can they keep him there? Like I was reading the reports that they were talking about his current salary, the $5 million for him and the additional $5 million for his staff. They didn't have the money yet. And they were like, oh, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. And so the good thing is the boosters decide to participate. But at the same time, the only concern I had, is it going to be sustainable? What's it going to look like if he does have a losing season the first year while he's getting this together? How many people are going to want to jump off the bandwagon immediately? You got to give them time. Just like the Chip Kelly thing we talked about a minute ago. You've got to give these coaches some time that are good coaches, the ones that can bring in talent and do it. Chip Kelly is my favorite one, man. I saw him, it was 2 years ago. I'm sorry, it was last season, actually. Somebody asked me who's going to be the biggest shocker to me in college football. And I was like, UCLA. See what Chip Kelly's doing over there. He's putting together sustainable winning, and he's going to get better each year. Just because he did it at Oregon. He was able to put Oregon on the map that way. He's going to do that again. Just watch. And sure enough, what'd he do? They look good. He just needs to add more. He's building blocks. Because UCLA doesn't care about football. I mean, California schools don't care about football unless they're winning.
Yeah, you need to give them a reason to care about football.
Exactly. And also, getting to the Rose Bowls, fucking hell. Excuse my French. Pasadena, that setup is awful. It's hard to get to the Rose Bowl, but it's a beautiful stadium. Beautiful. Granddaddy of them all for a reason.
It's a bucket list thing for me. I got to go see a game in the Rose Bowl.
You got to go see it at least once.
I got to.
And make sure your team wins, though.
Richard.
That's not a feel good.
Richard drops Paul Amalu. Great answer. Richard, haven't seen you around the channel for a while, man. Really hope you've been doing well. Hope you and your family are good. I know the last time we talked, you were going through some stuff, and I've been thinking about you. Hope you and your family are doing good. Happy holidays. Hope it's a pleasant time of the year for you, man. What a class Alabama assembled. Richard's another Alabama fan as well.
Nice. Yeah.
Been around the channel forever, man. I mean, like first 100, maybe?
Nice.
Maybe even lower than that. Yeah. I mean, it's maybe first 75 for sure. I remember him commenting. Yeah.
But no, throw out these names. I'm totally one of these days. I put it like this. We'll have a bunch. We'll probably have some. We're going to have a lot of downtime when it comes to recruiting and everything throughout the year. We'll probably start talking to some of our top players and stuff. That would be some fun videos to go through with you all.
Oh, yeah. We're going to do a lot of stuff like that.
But no, that's exactly it. But go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
The last thing I'll say about Colorado is this. The second part to this, we can talk about recruiting, and they're going to do some really good parts. But whenever we talk about Colorado, the transfer portal, man, I think that's where they are really going to be set to do a lot of damage. And we look at it already, getting Travis Hunter, which I think everybody expected. I think the writing was on the wall of that. It is what it is. But when we look around the transfer portal, they already have an addition, like you said, Bentley. I think that's a huge one. One that you didn't get to mention. I'm actually very excited because he was one that I was hoping I would get to mention is Savion Washington. Transfers over from Kent State, successful offensive lineman with Kent State and Sean Lewis. So we know he fits that system. We know Sean Lewis likes him. He transfers over to Colorado. I think that's a huge win. Instant plug and play.
100% agree. And I mentioned I had talked about the staff on my video, and I kept saying Sean Lee for some reason. Cowboys was in my mind at the time. I don't know why, but Sean Lewis, y'all knew who I was talking about. So don't be clowning me too much in my comments. But anyway, but that was one thing I wanted you all as Colorado fans to understand when I say Deion's probably going to leave. If they're successful, especially because I think offense is going to be the reason why.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this. Go ahead.
You're probably going to get Sean Lewis as your head coach right afterwards.
No doubt.
He's not going to leave. He's not going to leave and go with him because he went to Colorado specifically to use his high octane offense in that high altitude. He wants to see what that looks like. And it'll be fascinating to see exactly how successful he can be with it. And if his players can be prepared condition-wise, strength and conditioning coach is going to be critical for Colorado to be successful with that. But if they get that going, and they show a lot of success, and Florida State comes calling for Deion, Coach Prime's gone. Coach Prime's going to take the job at one of those schools. But if y'all keep Sean Lewis, he may be able to maintain it. And I'm being dead serious when I say that.
Yeah, because when we look at what he did at Kent State, that offense, guys, breakneck is putting it lightly. how fast they go. And it's not just in the passing game, it's in the running game. And whenever we're talking about Boulder, we have to then factor in the altitude. And now opposing defenses are having to try and keep up with that high octane offense in that altitude. It is not going to be fun. It is not going to be fun at all. And so we've talked about this at length, and Jay was the one that originally had the idea. I hadn't even thought about it. I mean, of course, the possibility of a bigger fish coming along, right, and coming and snagging Coach Prime makes sense. I had certainly thought of that, but I hadn't thought of the second layer of the genius of the Sean Lewis hire, and you did. You were the one that pointed it out to me. The first layer of the genius of this hire is that he got a former head coach to follow him and be an offensive coordinator. That is wild. That's unbelievable. The second part of the genius, to Jay's point, is if Coach Prime gets a bigger opportunity and leaves, Colorado is not left high and dry. They have a guy there in Sean Lewis that's ready to take over. I think Colorado is really notable. What they did in recruiting is going to be really interesting. And what they do in the transfer portal is going to be even more interesting. No doubt about it.
Agreed. This is a great question here from D. Regallo. My apologies. Yeah, I saw that. Made a comment. Richard, great.
That's awesome, man. I didn't want to say anything about it. Like, I didn't want to say anything about you having any sort of situation like that. I tried to keep it, but I don't know why, man. That's been in the back of my mind for a while, wondering how that's gone. So thank you so much. I'm really glad to hear that. That's awesome.
D asked a very good question. Why didn't Prime take the Georgia Tech job? All right, I'm going to tell you why Prime didn't take Georgia Tech or why he didn't take USF. And it's really a lot simpler than you think. One, Georgia Tech is freaking hard to recruit to. Hard.
Look at the comment Savage said.
I mean, nobody wants the Georgia Tech job. You're probably right, because it's hard to recruit to Georgia Tech, and this is the reason why Georgia Tech is so hard. One of their freshman filter class. Now, for anybody who's been to college or anything, you understand every school has that one freshman filter class. Basically, the class is so hard that it filters out who's a college student, who ain't at that institution. Theirs is calculus. Not too many people can handle calculus day one as an 18-year-old. And not that many recruits can do it either. It's hard. Georgia Tech has the same problem that Notre Dame has, but their academic standards are a little bit higher and harder. Yeah, I know, Richard. You wish. But guess what? I heard that he might look at the Patriots job.
Yeah, I think that's a real good
That's job. A no-brainer, though. That's a no-brainer job. There's no brainer for Bill Belichick to take him away from Nick Saban, because they pass people around back and forth anyway. That makes sense. That's a logical move, because Bill O'Brien's more of an NFL offensive coordinator than he is a college one. But I digress on that.
Oh, Savage. My goodness, man.
Fair point. Hey, man, it's hard. It's hard. And then so with USF being a group of 5 school that doesn't have its own stadium yet either, they were building it. And in the negotiations, I was reading one article that they made mention of. One of the reporters said that they're actually helping them design and figure it out. That was one part of the agreement. But your problem is really just one key thing. It's that they ain't got money either. Georgia Tech has money and it doesn't go to football. USF doesn't have money yet and they're still working on it. And so that's the reason why I don't believe that Deion took that job. They're not dedicated to football.
And Colorado, it feels like something could happen there, right? When we look at the state of Colorado, I have no doubt they have great alumni. You look at
Joe Klatt was the quarterback there, and he's been just swooning over Prime.
So I think that everything is really aligning nicely. And I'm here for it, man. I am absolutely here for it. College football, this is the thing that's wild to me, man. So many people were so tired of the stagnation in college football. And I mean, I'm someone who believes in meritocracy, so I think that's why college football is so beautiful. I wasn't necessarily mad about the stagnation in Alabama's reign, but so many people were wanting something to shake it up. And here comes Coach Prime, and he's shaking up college football. This this is what people should be interested in. Like, even if you're not convinced, I'm not, my contention here, guys, is not to say you have got to be convinced Colorado will work. You should be intrigued at the very least. That's all. You should be intrigued.
Very intrigued. And I am too. I've had a couple people on the channel hit me with, hey man, your Oklahoma channel, you should be focused on Oklahoma. And I'm just like, hey, I talk about Oklahoma. My other team is Tennessee. I've talked about Tennessee when I can. I haven't even started talking Tennessee football yet. And I was like, but this is so interesting. It's fascinating. It's a great thing for college football. You need personalities like this that are actually good at their job too.
Well, that's why Lane is great for the SEC.
Yes, Lane is a personality. He's annoying, and I love everything about it. You need those because you don't get that very often. You don't get that. And so, because basically all the characters are gone. And unfortunately, rest in peace, Mike Leach. He was one of the ones that we needed.
It's terrible.
We needed him. So that's a good question, Morgan. I'll jump on this one real quick, and I'm going to pass it back to you, Ty. I do think that Colorado will give USC a problem the first year. And I only say that because Shedeur Sanders is a really good quarterback. Yeah, he is a really good quarterback.
Very good.
And then you put him out there with Lewis's offense, which isn't too far off from what he did at Jackson State. I think that they can do some things year one that's a little bit going to be a shocker. I feel like this is a Mel Tucker situation. I hope he doesn't leave after a year. I don't see him leaving after 1 year, but I do see him walking in there having a really good first year. Now, 1 loss, no. Probably 4 losses, but I could see him being in games that you're going to be like, oh my God, this could be something sustainable.
Even if he goes 6-6, it's an unbelievable turnaround from the year before.
And I forgot to mention this before. Getting from 1 win to 8 wins is a lot easier than you think. Going from 8 to 9 is hard. Going from 9 to 10 is damn near impossible. 10 to 11.
That's an interesting theory, actually, because I see where you're going with it. That at first, when you said that, I perked up and I was like, I'm going to have to disagree with that. And then as you kept explaining, I was like, oh, I absolutely see where his logic is going here. That makes a lot of sense.
It takes a lot more to move up 1 incremental spot once you're at the top. It's so hard. And I think it's the one thing that college football fans don't appreciate about the greats right now and the great schools that have been able to do it. It's so hard to win 10 games. It is so hard because getting past that 9th win, it's that push. It's that push. And it's at the end of the year. Everybody's tired. Everybody's beat up. Everybody's injured. The question is who's got more at the end. It's so hard to get past, to get those incremental wins. And so for Prime, he'll be able to turn that around. And like I said, he'll be able to get 7 to 8 wins and be fine. But getting to those next levels where everybody wants you to be, that's why coaches lose their job at 9 wins. Why you're like, man, they got 9 wins and they got fired. Yeah, because it's really hard to get to 10. Yeah. And you need somebody else to get you over a hump to get to double digits. And then after that, you got to get to another hump to get to that next win. Because every team struggles with a random team in the middle of the season. That random team is what gets you past it.
If I was to give through our entire time right now, you've made a point and you've made it several times. So it's almost like if I was to have like an overarching point for each of us, for you, one of them is you got to have talent, but you cannot forego scheme. Right? Here's a great example. One of the reasons why I got so into football, for those of you that haven't heard the story, I came from a family of horse ranchers, right? But my dad was a boxer, like boxed collegiately. And I didn't even know they had it back then, but he boxed when he was in college, boxed his whole life. I never even knew until after he'd passed and I went back to upstate New York and all of my family was like, no, your dad, like, around these parts, he was a really good boxer. But I do know that like he would, ever since I was little, we'd watch boxing. And that's why I have such love. Y'all have probably heard me talk about, I love the UFC. I love boxing, like combat sports. I'm here for it, man. I love it. Every Saturday where there's a UFC fight, you can bet your bottom dollar. I have 1 TV pulled up with all the UFC fights and like 3 other TVs with all the college games going. But I'm not missing UFC. I'm not. It's not happening. But one thing he told me that has always stuck in my mind, because I think it translates to football: styles make fights. Styles make fights. And whenever we look at football, styles make matchups. You can be more talented, but if you do not scheme into what the other team does, you're going to have a really hard time. I'll put it to you like this. Cincinnati a few years ago, unbelievable pass defense. Desmond Ritter's the quarterback. They make it to the college football playoffs. They line up against Alabama. They were done. Before the whistle snapped, they were done. You want to know why they were done?
Mm-hmm.
Because people kept telling me, oh, but Ty, they held Alabama to less points and Mac Jones didn't throw the ball over the yard. Yeah, that's because Brian Robinson ran it straight down their throat for almost 300 yards. Because why are we going to pass the ball when you're sitting in a 3-3-5 and we can just run it down your throat the entire game? That doesn't make sense. I'm just going to run it until you can show me. So we didn't need to pass. Styles make matchups. There's a reason I think that Ohio State matches up better against Georgia than Michigan does. Because with Michigan, you're running right into the teeth of that defense. You're a run-heavy offense. You're running into the teeth of that defense. At least with Ohio State, we can spread you out. We can try and get some mismatches going. But that being said, Michigan waylaid Ohio State. And I don't think that a different result would happen if they played again. But that being said, I think that the stylistic matchup of the way Ohio State schemes is more conducive to success against Georgia than the way Michigan schemes. Now, Savage, just to go ahead and get this out of the way, I have Georgia beating them both. But
yeah. And on that, Ty, damn, you made it. Yeah, you basically encompass everything I was basically saying. Is the Styles, is, and we've talked about the Cincinnati game a lot. Like I've made mention of this before. I was like, the Cincinnati game was the greatest example of how great Nick Saban is as a coach, because he knew they've got two bookend corners who got drafted to the NFL in the first 2 rounds.
And one of them doing their Doug Thizzle in the NFL.
Eating.
Sauce. They're incredible.
Sauce is eating. He's going to be the best corner in the league in the next 2 years.
He's so good, man.
And Saban looked at that and said, like you said, why would I be stupid enough to pass against a defense built to stop passing? And that's the big problem with the 3-3-5 when you play against going from a G5 to a P5. And this is what made Clemson's 3-3-5 different with Venables than it is here in Oklahoma is they had massive size at the linebacker and on the line. So they got pressure. They could fill the gaps on the run, because you need 2 or 3 dudes. I mean, Georgia shifts into a 3-3-5 on occasion. It's you can't stop Jordan Davis in the middle. You can't stop Jalen Carter in the middle. You can't. You gotta have 2 guys on them, maybe 3. And because of that eliminates all your holes. You cannot run through that. And so then you also can't pass on our corners. So, but you're right. The most fascinating game in these playoffs to me is going to be Georgia-Ohio State. And Savage, I, like Ty, have Georgia winning this game, but y'all are going to have problems. And the reason why I say y'all are going to have problems is that those wide receivers at Ohio State,
they're great.
I don't know who's better. Their wide receivers are your corners. I don't know. And I'm not saying, and it's not me saying that you guys don't have good corners. That's me saying that Ohio State's wide receivers are that absurdly good.
No,
like, look at the Leve. They're absurd.
So it's going to be the talent of the Georgia defensive backs. This is an acknowledgement of the Ohio State. And let's be honest, guys. Whenever a wide receiver and defensive back line up, only one of them know the route.
Yep.
So the wide receivers already have an inherent advantage over the defensive backs.
Exactly. And they're talented in route running and catching. But that's the question. That's the question there. Who's going to stop Georgia's tight ends? And that's the reason why I have Georgia winning that game. It's the only reason why I don't have Ohio State winning this game. Is because I don't think anybody, as now we're going to a preview for the playoff games, which you're going to do next week too. But
you can figure it out, Surfer. You let me know. I don't know who can stop.
I have no clue who's going to stop those tight ends, man. That's the problem.
Even the run game in college football.
Yes. Even the run game. I think that the run game is probably going to run into a little bit of problems against Ohio State, but y'all's tight ends are absurd at Georgia. And Stetson Bennett's got that cockiness right now, so he's going to do it. He's going to do it good. Like, it's a shocker he was a walk-on. Like, I mean, he's old too, but at the same time, he's got the maturity too. It's just like, it's a shocker, but yeah,
he doesn't make mistakes.
Yep.
He doesn't make mistakes. Stetson is interesting because he's one of those quarterbacks where he might, at the end of the game, you might look at the result and you might say, hey, we didn't win because of Stetson, but very rarely would you look at Georgia and say you lost 100% because of Stetson, right? Like
Right.
maybe there was something more that could have been done, but he's not making these terrible
Boneheaded plays. You
decisions.
get college players. He not doing what most college players do. That's the crazy thing.
Exactly.
Which you have to appreciate. And I think that was the one thing I appreciate about Hendon Hooker being quarterback at Tennessee, watching them all year, is he was the same way. He would not make those mistakes. And then in that Georgia game, Georgia's defensive line just kept getting the pressure, and you can't do anything about that. Hendon needs at least 3 seconds to get the play going, and Georgia was giving him a second and a half.
If that.
And the
Jalen
difference,
Carter
though,
is terrifying.
And the difference, though, with this Ohio State game is that Ohio State's going to be able to give C.J. Stroud probably 2.5 seconds. And I'm not saying that the defensive line from Georgia is going to not be able to get in there. C.J. Stroud can move.
Yes, C.J. Stroud.
That's your
creative.
difference. He's a creative mover like Bryce Young. He just doesn't like to scramble, which annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, Bryce is
scramble, bro.
Bryce and Caleb, in my opinion, as great as CJ Stroud is, Bryce and Caleb, whenever the pocket breaks down, are the two biggest magicians. Like Bryce and Caleb, as crazy as this is to say, because they're both going to be first rounders, you're better off keeping them in the pocket because God forbid they break outside the pocket. A world of hurt is coming. You're done.
Just like we said earlier.
Done.
You give corners 7 seconds. You give the wide receiver 7 seconds. You give them 5 seconds. They're going to lose out. They're going to lose out in their matchup. It's just going to happen. It's automatic. It's nothing against the secondary. Their job is to read the play and stop it within a 3 to 4 second span. If you give them that extra second is so critical, you're going to hurt. It hurts you. You can't do anything about that, period. Especially good receivers that can run routes.
And Bryce, the thing that's so when the play breaks down, Bryce almost has this calm that goes over him that is just so weird. And he's just juking players, going about the pocket and still throw. It's odd for him to be the size he is, the poise he has. Unbelievable.
Top 5 quarterbacks that's done that this year: Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, Caleb Williams. I've been so impressed with watching Caleb get pressure put on him and how he just and like he doesn't run. He like steps to the side, to the side, steps back,
Very
back,
savvy.
scrambles, then stops, steps, and then runs if he needs to. He's fantastic with that. Max Duggan was doing that this year too. You can see the maturity in his play at TCU. He was calm in a lot of pressure, a lot more than I would have expected. And Stetson Bennett, those 5 were hands down. Michael Penix was good too. He had that. I put him as 6th on those that just had a lot of I saw him panic a couple of times this year that made me just kind of move him down. But he's easily top 10 when it comes to just calmness this season. You can't beat that. It's impressive.
Now, Savage, I'm not saying this is wrong, but is this for real? Because I feel like I've seen Ringo give up TDs.
I don't think Ringo has. I think Savage is right. I don't know if Ringo's going to lock up Harrison Jr. And I don't even like saying his first name in public. I'm not trying to get attacked. Yeah.
Ringo's
I don't
awesome,
know.
though. He's unbelievable.
He is.
Never. Okay.
He's a dog.
And that wasn't to question or to call into question his ability. Savage. I was just curious. That was the only reason I pointed that out. Just simple curiosity there.
Yeah, I don't think he has either. I remember seeing a stat on that, and
he's a great corner. One
so
of the
impressive.
top 10 highest rated of the modern era of rankings. He comes in as, I think, Savage, correct me if I'm wrong, number 7 on the all-time?
Yep.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
he does. No doubt about
Ringo
it.
does bait. Sauce Gardner, man. He's like Sauce. He's island. And I put it like this. This is the only thing that I fear when it comes to Ringo. And I think we talked about this for Alabama players. I don't think this really affects Georgia guys as much. I'm curious to see how they handle him when he moves into the slot. Because they're not going to keep Harrison Jr. on the side.
No, they need to move him into the slot. They need to move him around.
They don't move him around. You're not going to be stupid enough to let them just be him and Ringo one-on-one nonstop because as accurate of a passer he is, I don't know how accurate CJ is going to be able to be with Ringo. Those are going to be NFL throws. Now, if CJ can do NFL throws in this game to where he's not throwing to an open receiver, he's throwing the receiver open, that's a different story. That's a different story in this whole conversation, but I don't know what that looks like. But, Eddie Robinson, that's a fascinating one.
That's why I highlighted it because
good point
it really is a fascinating point. Surfer, I actually do agree. I think he would be a great safety. I think Ringo would be a great safety. The way he plays, not afraid of. I do think he would be a really good safety. Does KF? Yeah, Ron. And any team has a chance. You know what I mean? I don't think it's the greatest chance because when we look at KSU's defense, and we'll break this down at a later date.
We're gonna jump. We'll probably jump into each game. Heck,
Yeah.
each of the big ones, especially that Zach statement here. Texas secondary against Penix Jr.
Oh, I can't.
I would love to see. I want to
see
how they. Yeah, next week is gonna be so much fun. I love bowl season because this is the time when you really get to see all the players you didn't have time to see, and you get to see them against elite teams over against each other. Like, that's the best part about bowl season. Like, this is the one thing the NFL doesn't have. And people that complain about bowl games and stuff not being meaningful. No. This is spotlight opportunity for these kids, for a lot of these players. Also, those that decide to opt out, I actually like that they opt out because then we get to see the young players play and see what next year is going to look like. Yeah. That I do appreciate. I appreciate seeing what the future of the team is going to be as well. Like, I mean, of course, you want your best players out there to try to win this game. I want to see what the young guys are going to be. Like, sure. Who should I write on paper? I better keep an eye on next season. I need to go follow up and watch a little film on them.
So I'm going to answer this right here, and then I'm going to get us into our last topic of the stream. But, Ron, essentially this. I will never say a team has zero chance of winning. I will never say that because it's football. We've seen crazy upsets happen. We've seen them. But Bryce Young, frightening to answer your. Bryce and Will are playing.
Y'all don't have any opt-outs.
No. They're not. They're not opting out. I think they feel a little slighted. And, I mean, they want to show something for it. Kansas State, really impressive team. I think they're very well coached. Here's the only issue. They rank like 84th in the nation in stopping the run. They are not able to stop the run at all. And Bama is better than any team they would have placed in rushing effectiveness. So, or as good. I won't say better. Bama is as good as any team they've played. Maybe a point or two off. You get the point I'm making here in rushing effectiveness. Deuce Vaughn's as good as any player in the nation. We got to keep it real. We got to keep it a buck. Deuce Vaughn is dangerous. He might, but he's a dangerous player, man. He is dangerous.
You say he might get killed. No, I mean, I would love to say something like that, but he's been doing this for
too
years.
Good. Yeah, Deuce
he's
is
too
Deuce.
Good. He's been doing this for years, and there's a reason why there's a reason why people have feared him the last couple of years playing at K-State. He's one of another set of running backs that do. He's another freaking Darren Sproles, Aaron Lockett type player that goes out there, small, shifty, hard to get. Remember, when Darren Sproles was at Kansas State, he was the exact same size as what Deuce Vaughn is today. Exact same. When he was a recruit, which was fascinating. Like, golly, he was small. So, yeah, you got to stop underestimating him, man.
Savage, I've said it. I'm a homer, though. And I'm not saying that like sarcastically. It's just if I say Bryce is, there is a level of bias in that because of my fandom. But I do agree with you. The things he does, unbelievable. Here's the last thing I want to talk about today, Jay.
Okay.
There's a team in college football right now. And if people are paying attention, it seems like a lot of pressure building up and that something's about to pop. Do you know what team I'm talking about? It's a Big Ten team.
New coach?
New coach.
Man.
Chat, y'all have any idea who I'm talking about? Feels like something is about to pop in a good way. Hopefully it does for them. I'd be very happy for this team, for the fans, for everybody if it does. New coach this year in the Big Ten.
In the West, too. I know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead.
Here we go. Took one person. Nebraska. Yep. Nebraska. Guys. There's something cooking. Oh, don't get me wrong, guys. Wisconsin, great answer as well. I'm not mad.
I was about to say. So my first thought was initially Wisconsin. I was like, no. He's talking Rule because Rule is going to do some special stuff there. Yes. But we can't knock out the Big Ten West should be a hell of a lot better this year than it was last.
I will absolutely take Wisconsin as an acceptable answer. I will absolutely take Wisconsin as an acceptable answer. No doubt about it. Here's the thing, though. The number one quarterback in the class of 2024, Dylan Raiola, decommits from Ohio State. And wouldn't you know it, he has got family working on that Matt Rule staff.
You
Interesting.
don't say. I love it.
That is something we have got to watch. Also, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't point out Arizona State. Raiola is from Arizona, plays high school in Arizona. Arizona State gets Kenny Dillingham in. They get in Rashad Samples as I can't believe they got in Rashad Samples still. They got in Rashad Samples and Brian Carrington, and nobody's talking about it. And I'm sitting here like, how is nobody talking about this?
And I totally get why they won that one. And we talked about this before. Like Samples was one that we heard rumors about potentially coming to Oklahoma, and adding to the staff and finding a good spot for him. But that was smart of them to win him over by giving him passing game coordinator title and letting him handle a lot of that stuff, something that he really wants. GTG, his tweets are hilarious because he understands how to play. Him and Lane Kiffin understands the game when it comes to tweeting. You just got to sometimes say just fun and funny stuff. You can't just be too serious.
Don't take yourself too serious. Yeah.
Right. It's a game first off, and it's for fun. I mean, it's for a lot of money, but it's fun. Enjoy yourself. But outside of that, no, I think Rule is going to do the same thing he did at Baylor up there at Nebraska. I've got more faith in him now than I did before, and it was never that I didn't think that he'd be any good at it. My issue has always been with Nebraska is that they're just not churning out the talent they used to. Nebraska used to be a factory for offensive linemen. We have not really seen those Nebraska linemen in a while. The trench guys. I mean, Ndamukong Suh was probably the last one we've seen, which is recent, but we haven't seen many defensive trench guys. Like, not saying they put out zero, but I'm used to hearing their names from Nebraska a lot more than we have the last 20 years. So they've got a lot of things to figure out and figure out how to get. Hell, they're about to lose Malachi Coleman. Malachi's going to Colorado. And watching Malachi at 6'5" run a 4.3 40, I don't know how you not find a way to get that kid.
Well, they got Malachi.
Well, he decommitted.
No.
Did Malachi come back?
Yeah, he signed with Nebraska.
No way.
They beat Prime.
I missed that? Missed that? How did I miss that? My bad, y'all. I did not think he signed. Let me go look.
I gotta go. He signed. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Huge win.
Wow. Well, shut me up. I did not realize that they won the Malachi sweepstakes, because that was one player that I was like, you can't lose him. In-state. Oklahoma almost snatched him up and then pulled back for their own reasons. That's not one you can lose. You gotta win that guy, and if they did, then shoot, there we go. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I
Let me go over. I'm gonna look. Yep, he did. He is signed, sealed, and delivered. Fascinating. Wow, I don't know how I missed that, because I've been paying attention to him, because I've been wanting to see if one player I was wondering if he could steal. I didn't think he signed at all, but that's good. That's great for Rule. And like you said, he's doing some special stuff there. The Wisconsin picking up Nick Evers from Oklahoma as a transfer. Addition. Luke Fickell's going to do some special stuff with that.
Great addition. No doubt.
He's got talent. The big thing with him was, I remember coming in, he wanted to sit for about a year and really grow under schemes. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that he fit Levy's scheme. I didn't think he fit the up-tempo. I felt like he's more of a good passer that's going to do a lot of scrambling. RPO to do it, but I think there's more to his game than that. Him going up there with Fickell, he could be another Desmond Riddler easily and be successful.
And, Surfer, here's one thing I'll say, because here's one thing, though, man. Whenever you're coming from college to the NFL, and I have some knowledge on the Carolina stop. That's all I'll say. I have some behind-the-scenes knowledge from a friend that played for Carolina at the time.
Before you go there, Ty, real quick, I don't think people, and not no shade to you, Surfer Boy. I think the bigger thing is understanding the difficulty and difference in NFL to college.
Well, this is exactly the point of
Go. Yeah, continue then. I'll let you continue then.
The way you talk to the players, you can't be a guy coming in from college and talking to those guys like you're still talking to college players, because some of those guys on the roster make more money than you. They're going to tell you to kick rocks. And that's, he came in there and tried to run it like a college because that's everything he knew. And they
Chip
instantly
Kelly.
were just like not hearing it. And so you're not wrong, Surfer. 100% you're not wrong. But I do think that the difference between NFL and college, like, not all great college coaches are going to work in the NFL, because some of the things that make you a great college coach are actually detrimental in the NFL.
Yep. Perfect example. Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll was the head coach of the Patriots before he went to USC. The big difference between college and NFL is in college you control your roster and there's no real parity. You can get every single base player you want. And the NFL is built to specifically have parity. And you have to have the best mind when it comes to being a front office guy. Matt Rule's not a front office guy in the NFL. He's not. He's going to go after guys that he thinks going to be good, and he's going to be like, oh, yeah, that's one of my guys who working. No, it doesn't work that way, especially on both sides of the ball. Because he was running he's like the general manager at first as well. And that's why the experiment failed so bad. Hell, Nick Saban failed in the NFL.
Yeah.
Did y'all not see that? Like, that's the thing.
Out Nick Saban didn't work. So you're not wrong, Surfer, but I think there's a level of nuance to that conversation. It's really, really interesting.
And go to the last comment from Surfer Boy, because I want to jump on this before we wrap things up. That's the one. Appreciate y'all pulling up, chopping it up with us, and talking back and forth too for as long. It's 2.5 hours. This is so much fun. I love this stuff.
Did you see the stream we did on Wednesday?
Yeah, I did. I was able to pop in and out while I was wrapping up my work. Y'all were getting it.
Yeah, we went 6.5 hours. I actually released my final video of the night at 11 o'clock and realized I hadn't eaten all day.
Yep.
So I left here and went to Wendy's, grabbed a spicy chicken sandwich, and came home because I hadn't eaten all day. I'd just been making content. Completely forgotten until I stopped.
But this point here, this is a fascinating one. And this is one that everyone really thinks that the game is just going to overly change way more than you think. It's changing today. It's going to level out within the next couple of years. And it's going to be back to what it used to be. I promise you. It's a cycle. It always is.
It's a pendulum.
It's a pendulum. If you didn't think that players weren't getting bags in the last 30 years, I've got some oceanfront property in Missouri that I would love to sell to you today.
I'll take it.
Because I'm gonna say it. It ain't gonna change. It ain't changing the game as much as y'all think it is. Josh Pate tweeted this out. And I was trying to tell some people this, and they were just like, BS. People that money is everything they're gonna go after. He pointed out that a lot of the high profile deals that went down, the highest bidder didn't win. Because this is your levels. Now, just like today, the parity issue in college football is that there's a top 1%, top 5 teams, then there's everybody else. And Joe Clapp pointed this out. From about 4 to 5, about 5 to about 65, Vegas odds-wise is probably like a 3-point difference from the top all the way to like the 65th team. Because there's parity in between there. All the teams can beat each other in some capacity. You see it all the time in the rankings. Teams randomly beat each other. There's parity in between there. It's when you get to that top 4 is where the problem comes in, because they start to really hoard the talent. And then the one thing that jumps in that NIL money cannot beat, development. So a lot of these high profile ones for like Alabama and Clemson and Oklahoma, Ohio State, as we get into the teams that have done this before. Ty, you said this a while back, and it's always stuck with me only because I just couldn't find the way to say it the proper way. The defensive line coach at Ohio State, what's his name?
Larry Johnson. He's the godfather.
Larry Johnson. He's the godfather of Godfather, right? Think about this. Ohio State can offer a guy money. Bama can walk in and offer him more. But honestly, the money-wise, it's probably maybe a couple $100,000. Now, I'm gonna say this: that's still a lot of money. But for those that are already at that bracket, it don't make that big of a difference for them.
No.
It's actually just more taxes they're going to pay. So for a lot of them, it's more of okay, I can get money here. I can get money here. I'm broke, but I'm going to be having a whole bunch of money, but it's going to get managed properly, because don't get it twisted. Y'all crazy people think that taxes is going to be a problem with kids. I'll explain on that in a minute, but the battle at the top is about a development. It's not money anymore. Now, you're going to have a couple of players here or there that's going to chase the dollars because, A, they probably have to. John Calipari said it best at Kentucky. He said, hey, man, some of my kids that are one and dones, I told them they need to go because I recruited them and they had dirt floors at their house. Like, they were dirt poor. So I told them, go get that money, bro. Get that money. Yeah. But for a lot of these kids, when you get to that top 4 recruiting, ain't about the money anymore. It's about development, going to the league. Because you already know, Alabama's coaches have a proven track record of sending you to the league. Ohio State, Larry Johnson, same thing. Brent Venables, Ty Bates in Oklahoma, they have proven track record. Lincoln Riley has a proven track record of getting Heisman Trophy winners and #1 draft picks. When you have that on your resume, it's hard for kids to. Money does not change that. A parent can say all they want to that. Oh yeah, I would love that. They would love more money. But those parents also think about, okay, who's really going to get him to the league? Because NFL scouts talk to these coaches. They go to these coaches and talk to them about this stuff. Now, the NFL doesn't give a shit about kids wanting money, more money, and stuff. They don't care because they pay them in the NFL. Yeah. So they don't care about NIL. I never think that they care about that. But the only time that transfer portal is really an issue, as a transfer portal is really something to be concerned about, is when you lose starters. Because today the difference is that these backups are recognizing that it honestly does not matter where you play college football at. If you're good, the NFL will find you. Go look at the rosters on these NFL rosters. Go look at the schools that they went to. Hell, I was talking to my buddy about this, and he was talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. That dude went to Eastern Illinois just like freaking Tony Romo. I didn't watch a single game of him in college, but guess what? Belichick and him did. I'm not saying he's a great quarterback, but he's an NFL quarterback. I didn't watch any of Jared Goff either. Sonny Dice was his head coach. #1 draft pick. If you got the talent, they're going to find you. So it doesn't matter. So that's what the kids are seeing. So they're like, okay, I'll take a few dollars at a smaller school and I'll go start and just play, get me some film. They need film more than anything. So I think that's where Matt Rule is going to be successful, is they're going to start pulling in these kids and be like, look, come to Nebraska. You're going to start. Right. I watched Brady because he's in the Orange Bowl. I mean, he was in the Rose Bowl. So I saw him in the Rose Bowl. But yes, that's the point. A lot of these people don't see him. You don't see them a lot of the times. And some of these players, a lot of these Georgia players you mentioned, Surfer Boy, that have gone league, a lot of these top tier players still fizzle out faster than you think. That's the scary part about
average
going
NFL
pro.
career is less than 4 years.
Exactly. And the ones that are replacing them, are players from schools you never heard of.
The majority
Those practice
of the league
squads
is
are
undrafted.
full.
Yeah.
There are players. There are players in the practice squads you've never heard of that are moving up fast because injuries happen in the NFL so often. Then you get guys that just start starting. You know what I'm saying? They start taking jobs. And so my point, my point behind and why I went this whole long-winded conversation about this is that NIL and the transfer portal is not going to change college football as much as you think. You're going to get one thing though. You'll get random schools having really great years really fast. The question we're still trying to figure out is how sustainable that is. Yeah. That was my whole rant behind it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And like Frightening and I, we've always talked about this. He said 2 years ago, whatever, I told you that the top 5 will lose depth and 6 through 25 will benefit, as well as pulling from schools under them.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Frightening, but where we still disagree is the amount of effect that it's having on the top teams. Because I think that there's more parity, but there is still a massive difference in the 1% that we've seen for so long and the rest in terms of...
And it's all because of the starters. It's the ones that are actually playing is your difference.
Because the guys that are transferring are not the high-impact guys that, like, so many people thought we would see. And it's like, okay, well, Alabama might lose 10 guys to the transfer portal. How many starting snaps did they lose? Oh, 2?
Right.
Okay, well... How many 5-stars did they recruit? Oh, 6 in this class and 7 in... Okay, well, all right. Okay,
New Legacy just pointed out a great point here. There are no star players out there that are playing better than some 5-stars. You want to know a good example of it? Jared Verse over there at Florida State.
And Frightening, that's also not true. We're seeing teams still stack 5-stars 4 deep everywhere. So that's not a true point, because whenever we look at Alabama...
just got 7 of them.
Yeah, and no, I'll take you to the defensive edge room at Alabama. Will Anderson, Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, Jaheim Alexander, Jaheed Campbell, and Rousseau. There's 7 5-stars in one room, not counting all the blue chip 4-stars.
And they're not going to transfer. Now, you may have one transfer out of all of those.
Drew Sanders,
and it's probably because
he did transfer. One out of 7.
Yeah, and out of this next year, you may have one younger one transfer out of that only because they may have gotten hurt and fell out of the rotation. But the thing is that they're being replaced with another 5-star. Perfect example, Denver Harris just left Texas A&M as a 5-star, went to LSU, another 5-star school. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I get that. But most of your top 5 and 4-star players are sticking at these same schools. And guess what? Alabama's replacing them with another 5-star from another school, another 4-star from another school. It's all because they're just passing them back and forth. Like Trayshawn Holding went to Oregon, and then Oregon's 4-star wide receiver Dante Thornton is still in the portal, and he's going to get picked up probably by Alabama.
And frightening, here's the thing. What's changed? Our 3rd and 4th strings are still 4 and 5 stars. So nothing has changed. So this is my whole point to you. You're arguing this. Nothing has changed. Sure, 6 through 25 has gotten better, but my entire point, the entirety of the time, I don't think the top teams are going to be affected in the manner y'all think. Aaron Anderson just left, and Alabama just signed how many more blue chip 4-star wide receivers?
I don't think 6 through 25 is better only because of right now. 6 through 25 has always been good.
Yeah,
they just beat up on each other.
We look at Georgia. Georgia's stacking more 5-stars. Bama's stacking more 5-stars. So people are still willing to wait. Why? Because even though they can transfer, well, viewers, but frightening. How would that make sense at all? That's a terrible example to give from an argumentative standpoint, because Quinn Ewers going to Ohio State that year, foregoing his senior season, was essentially guaranteeing that he would be way down the depth chart. Now we're trying to argue that a guy who's going to come in, essentially start off on 4th on the depth chart, because no college is learning during August. The learning happens during the spring. Now we're bringing him in there, and we're trying to think that he's going to take the job from CJ Stroud in year 2. That's not going to happen. So Ewers went to a situation that didn't make the most sense from the jump, trying to take the job from a quarterback that he wasn't going to take the job from.
Right. He was going to go to Texas, decided to go to Ohio State to see if he could take C.J. Stroud's job.
With the money.
C.J. Stroud's job, money. Took the money as a junior in high school. And he got paid, hung out, and decided that, there's no chance of me playing. Let me go where I know I can take somebody else's job.
I don't think he would have stayed, frightening, because I don't think he was going to beat out Ewers. Or I don't think that he was going to beat out Stroud.
Oh, no, there's 0 chance he was beating out Stroud. 0 chance. So C.J. Stroud's way too good.
And you're right. Ewers left.
Now
they still have 5-stars that are backing up CJ Stroud.
Now pull this back. I think the one argument that he's making, sorry to interrupt you there with their tie, but I think this is the argument that makes this hard to do is quarterbacks. Because everybody has a limited amount of quarterbacks.
Well, yeah, anyway. Because only one quarterback plays, so that's why it's not the greatest.
Quarterbacks have to go where they can play, but we've always seen quarterbacks transfer anyway for years. I mean, hell, look at Oklahoma. They kept getting a whole bunch of walk-ons and transfers. That's
part of the reason, Jay, where I'm like, this isn't a good example, because you're trying to utilize something that's always happened, and it's one. This isn't the example I would use from an argument.
Oklahoma's the best example, man. Ever since Lincoln Riley's been there, he's had nothing but transfer quarterbacks. Mainly because those quarterbacks looked at the job and said, I can take their job, and I'm going to walk in and do it. They may not have been 5-stars, well, except for Kyler.
5-star Kyle McCord is still sitting behind C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
So their quarterback room is still as loaded as anybody. It's not affecting it in the manner that but this is my point. You're right. The teams 6 through 25, they're getting talent, but my whole point to you has always been the top teams are not going to be hurt in the manner y'all think they are. And so far, they're not. They're not.
The only ones that you're seeing, but the last thing on that, the biggest thing is coaching matters.
Yes, because these guys know they'll go to the NFL.
Yep, and that's the reason why Josh Heupel was able to put together the team he put together this past season. He's a former Heisman finalist and champion. He did really good things at Oklahoma. He changed things up at UCF, and he brought in transfer quarterbacks to try to bolster up his rooms. And now he's getting the recruits he needs because they're seeing that, he is putting up the offenses that are getting people's attention. I need to go him. So, yeah, some of the schools that haven't been super successful are going to move up. Like I said, 6 through 25 is going to definitely see more success. So you're right, frightening on that. But they're not going to dethrone Alabama, Georgia, for the most part, Ohio State, Michigan. Like, it's moving from 4 to maybe 7 than it used to be just 1 through 4.
And
but it also depends
point.
on each year.
This is a great and more than fair point, Truth. You're 100% right. Bama is also a bad example for the reverse of this, right? Because they are an anomaly. No doubt about it. But that's why I can even argue Georgia. I can argue Ohio State. I can look at any of the top teams, and the negative effect, I just don't think we've seen it to the same degree. Especially you look at Georgia. They just lost all of these guys, and they had enough talent stacked that they still have the number 1 defense in the nation and are going to the championship again. So the transfer
Savage,
portal
I hate you, just
them,
FYI.
Right? So like you are right. Bama is not the example to use because of an anomaly, but I can even pull the top 1% teams outside of Bama.
It's the top 1%.
But if we want to argue that the top 1% is an anomaly, then we get back to my original point of 6 through 25 will benefit, but the 1% is an anomaly, and they are not going to be adversely affected in the manner everybody seems to think they will be.
You know what the transfer portal is going to bring you all is fun bowl games. So if you watch the bowl games and see talent that you haven't ever paid attention to, and you prepare your mind for them being in the NFL, you're going to see a lot of that. That's the best part about the transfer portal to me, especially bringing up guys from like Jared Verse was probably my favorite one from Albany. He was eating. Nobody recruited him. I think he was considered undersized. He went up there to Albany, cooked, and Florida State said, nah, that dude does not belong down there. We need to bring him up. Brought him to Florida State, and he wrecked shop this year, and he will be drafted in the first round. Those are the type of players you're going to run into. Like I said, you're going to get found by scouts. And I think a scout found Jared Verse before Florida State did. Colorado's going to get one, and Shane Cokes from Shane Cokes. He played at Ivy League school, starts with a D. Dartmouth. Yeah, he played up at Dartmouth. He's going to be at Colorado. He's another one of those similar to Jared that was he was a no-star guy that nobody paid attention to, just like Academy's saying. You're going to get those, but no, frightening. And I love this conversation. This is great. No,
because this is the biggest conversation right now. The implications and the effects of the transfer portal. This is a great conversation.
Right. Look at all of those. Yeah. And what you're saying, like, yeah. Well, I don't, I'll put it like this. Those players that want to be developed are going to stay. That's the difference.
That's my point.
Still, but the thing about it, you got to remember too, frightening. You got to remember this as well. Even, what team is frightening pull for? What team? Texas. Okay, perfect example. Texas and the development issues that we've seen at Texas over the years, and how Texas didn't get anybody drafted in the last draft, which is still mind-boggling to me. The talent they're bringing in. When you get to the point where your staff, and this is what Sarkisian is going to help you all with, he develops talent very well on the offensive side. He's going to get a lot. His staff is built to develop. So you guys are going to PK on the defensive side, defensive line. He's going to get you guys back into the league, and those names are going to be heard. You're going to probably end up being back DBU like you used to be in the early 2000s in the Mac Brown era. But the bigger thing to remember when it comes to this part of it is that development, those players that want to be developed, they're going to be developed and they're going to stick around. The flaky ones, the ones that keep moving on and on, are going to exist regardless. You're going to have at least 1% of your I say 10% of your recruiting class, like 10 to 15% of your recruiting class will stick there. 10 your recruiting class will disappear. And that's always been that way. That's the reason why so many 5 stars still don't pan out in the NFL.
True.
And it ain't because of the coaching staff. Most of the time, it's usually the player. So they're just not going to pan out. I mean, I go back and look at these classes. I mean, besides quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields, there's not very many 5 stars that really, I mean, Deshaun Watson wasn't a 5-star. Not to talk too much about him. Baker Mayfield wasn't a 5-star. Kyler was. But when you start looking at a lot of the players that are most dominant in the league right now, a lot of them are not 5 and 4 stars all the time. There's a lot of them. But there's not as many as you think. Like, when you start looking at players, you're like, dang, he was only a 3-star? Aaron Donald was a 3-star. And he's eating in this version of the league. That's kind of the point. You're going to get that. You're going to get players that are going to just flake regardless. And so I know you understand that. You've seen that at Texas. I've seen it at Oklahoma. I've seen it at Clemson. Every school, you'll see players that's going to flake out and disappear. And so I know you totally get what we're saying. We said that's fair up there, so it's totally true. Is and your point on it's going to hit. I think the ones that's going to suffer the most though, and still to this point, and we talked about this, Ty, as this levels out, the pendulum starts to level itself. Is that when those 6 through 25 teams develop talent, they're going to get snatched up by that 1%.
And that's the thing. And Frightening, you and I agree on 99% of your overall point, except the 1% of I don't think that the top teams in college football are being negatively affected by this. And I can use this example right here. Whenever you give this list, Ohio State, Clemson, Michigan have all lost players, including Worthy to us. And I actually want to use this example because you're right. Michigan did lose Worthy to y'all. Michigan is in a college football playoff this year. So did it really adversely affect the Wolverines that much when they're the ones in the college football playoffs?
2 years in a row. Everybody wanted Harbaugh's head.
So it's one of those things where, like, you're right. They had a transfer, but it's not negatively affected them. They're in the college football playoffs. So it will help 5 to 25, no doubt in that aspect. But they're the ones that are there.
Jalen Hurts was a 4-star, top 110 player in the country.
You're staying away from your in-laws, aren't you? Oh
no!
This is true. It's the talent,
not in result, but in talent. Yeah, no, you're right. It's fair. It's fair with that, but I just don't. I just
don't think that it's that impactful if the result doesn't follow. I
don't think it's going to fully balance. I think we're going to have anomaly years. We're going to have those random exceptions. Like, you're going to have some anomalies. Like, Tennessee's an anomaly. As much as we would love Tennessee to be back, I don't know if Tennessee's going to be up there like that every year. But there's no excuse for Tennessee to not be win 10 years every year. They have one of the biggest collectives in the country. They have one of the biggest booster bases, and they have rich tradition. They should. I don't see it. I see them winning 9 games on a consistent basis with Heupel. And as long as they give him grace and mercy on that, they'll stay like that. But you're not going to see that from too many teams. LSU's going to have a year. I think it was Savage that mentioned, I think it was either Savage or somebody else mentioned about Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly don't need to prove himself. He don't need to prove himself in big games. He's at LSU. He's going to get those Louisiana boys, and eventually talent's going to outdo even his scheme. He's going to win. But that's what they do. Like I told you, Saban won a title. He's a great coach. Les Miles and Ed Orgeron, not so much. That was talent winning those games. It wasn't the coaching at all.
Well, I mean, someone's got to make sure the field is acceptable to eat.
Thank you. So you're going to have those randoms in though. And I think Michigan might actually be at the point where, well, Michigan's built like an NFL team.
Yeah, the way they're built is just wild.
Yeah, they're built like an NFL team right now. And I think that's where they're going to maintain their success because I was watching NFL Live, going off the rails as usual, watching NFL Live, and they had a segment. They were talking Dan Orlovsky and Ryan Clark, Marcus Spears, Mina Kimes, and Laura Rutledge. They were talking about,
He's built a machine. I completely agree with that, yeah.
We gotta wait for him to retire before we really see Alabama even balance out. But my point on NFL Live, they were pointing out how more teams are running it power runs, and they're they're seeing less success on those zone runs that we're used to, like the runs that Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, his offenses run. That power run has gotten the most yards per carry in NFL history this year. There is power run. And the reason why that's successful is back to the point that you made about Alabama playing Cincinnati. That 3-3-5 with undersized guys didn't work. You're going to get guys that are running it down your throat. And that's where you're seeing the success on that power run. Teams are doing that more. They're just running it down people's throat in the NFL. And because of that, you're going to see another shift in college football. They're going to have to catch up to that. And that's what Alabama does. They go out there and they just power run you. They beat.
Yeah.
You old school. They're going back old school with it.
The quarterback behind Bryce, there's 2 new legacy. One, Jalen Milroe, and I know people are not high on him, but one thing we have to understand, guys, is scheme is so important. The Bill O'Brien scheme is not going to work for Jalen Milroe. It's just not. And in fact, the Bill O'Brien scheme is only going to work for a handful of quarterbacks, and they better be brilliant. And that's the reason Bryce was able to do it, because Bill basically handed the entirety of the offense to Bryce and said, figure it out. I'm going to sit up here. You figure it out. It was almost unfair what Bill O'Brien did. But Ty Simpson, 5-star quarterback, true freshman this year. He is one to watch. So Bama does have some quarterback depth. They also, New Legacy, signed 2 top 10 quarterbacks in the class of 2023 and have a 5-star quarterback, the number 2 or 3 quarterback in the nation, Julian Sayin, in the class of 2024.
Not one, but 2.
2.
Not one, but 2 quarterbacks that they're assigned. It's absurd by Nick Saban, but that's Nick Saban because he can do that. And on top of that, thanks, Hank. No, on top of that, I like Jalen Milroe. I think he's going to be a lot better than people expect. And like you said, scheme is big. Bill O'Brien's offense is a pro-style offense. It's an NFL offense. And that's one problem you run into with college quarterbacks is most of them cannot run it. And it's not that Bryce Young can't run it, but everybody else around him can either. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it's that Bryce Young's the only one that can run it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so when Bryce is out there running this offense like that, the receivers just aren't getting there the way they need to be. And it's more so timing routes. It's a lot more timing. And in college,
stuff
a lot of modifications on the fly. Like a lot of people hate, talk about, for example, Lamar Jackson and how he's only a running quarterback. And people fail to realize he ran a Bobby Petrino offense in college, which was 100% a pro-style offense. Literally, he was passing the ball a lot. But the problem was for Lamar Jackson, just like it is for Bryce Young, is that Lamar Jackson was the only one that could run it. If you don't have wide receivers that are ready for the adjustments, offensive linemen that are ready for the adjustments, that can make those adjustments and be successful and execute on it, you're going to struggle.
Well,
you're going to have
another
struggles.
thing, you asked a junior in college in his second year starting to go to the line of scrimmage and call all the audibles.
Yeah.
To handle all of that. Bryce is a junior in college, and he is doing what... You know what's wild, Jay? There are NFL quarterbacks that didn't have as much on their shoulders as Bryce had on his shoulders.
Correct. That's why we have a very big shortage. And I've talked about this on the sports portion of my podcast before, is that we have a very big shortage in NFL caliber quarterbacks. People can't do it at the NFL level anymore because it's that hard. It's gotten that hard to be able to run through the complexities of it. And most of it is that a lot of players just can't do it. Like Bryce Young is going to be fine in the NFL. He's going to be really good. I think CJ Stroud will be fine as well because they're built to be able to do that. Caleb, I think that he'll be a spark plug. I'm curious to what
I was impressed by some of his adjustments this year, but that development needs to keep happening.
He has to keep developing,
but it has got to keep happening.
His development has to keep going. I mean, we're seeing this with Lincoln Riley quarterbacks now, from between Kyler, Baker. Hurts is probably the one that's figured it out the most, but he's also running 2 separate systems. So he's got a lot more diversity in his mind about offensive sets. Like when he was at Alabama, they didn't run the high octane offenses until Lane Kiffin got there and he left right afterwards. It was a run. It was run the ball. Get the ball running back. Jalen, you go run the ball too. He gets to Oklahoma, sees more complexity, and he puts 2 and 2 together.
Yes.
And now he's in the pro level. He has that vision board of air raid. I can do things here, but I can also run a power offense, a pro style offense at the same time. So he has that diversity in his mind to do both. Not very many quarterbacks have that right now. It's so hard. Exactly frightening. That's the difference, is that, and I think that not outside, I don't think the other quarterbacks that OU've had, like under Lincoln Riley, are not smart. I'm not saying Caleb isn't smart. He just doesn't have the diversity of the play calling. He doesn't have the diversity of the types of offense to run. And Jalen is used to that. He's used to that pro style mentality in your offense because that was Saban's offense the whole time when he first got there. Then it changed with Lane Kiffin to more of an air raid. And then he got to Oklahoma and really got into a simple yet complex offense where he didn't have to make all the adjustments, and now he's in the NFL doing both.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
And on this comment right here, Truth, I'm so happy that this year's game is in Tuscaloosa because I wouldn't want to go to Austin without Bryce and all them. So
yeah, that's
real glad that's in Tuscaloosa. That's going to be an awesome game. Unbelievable game. And
awesome
Zach,
game.
I'm very happy that Milroe didn't go to Texas because I think, one, I loved him, and I think he was a super underrated player. But in fairness to truth, if you're a Texas fan, I don't think you feel any type of way about it because you have Quinn Ewers, Murphy, and Arch. So your quarterback room is spoken for years. What direction do you want to go? You got a guy.
Hey, man, I just PG has said this numerous times. Preston Gant of PG show, great friend of the show.
Yep,
we talked about this quarterback wise. Yeah, that what's the other quarterback? Malik Murphy. Yeah,
real high ceiling.
He might be the best quarter. He made the best quarterback on y'all's roster.
See, I don't know that I agree with that. I think Quinn probably has the highest ceiling, but Malik.
I think Malik does, and I say that because he makes me think of Anthony Richardson, just not refined. Like Anthony Richardson has a super high ceiling, size, strength, everything. He's just not refined, and I think it's just poor coaching his whole life. Malik get out there with Sark. If Sark throw him, oh my God. Now he may end up being another Roshan where he just goes straight running back and just dominates. But yeah, he's terrifying.
And this is the thing. This is why I give Quinn, because I do agree with you. If we're saying ceiling, Malik may have a higher ceiling, but I think right now Quinn is further along, and that's only because, now that being said, man, I'm not gonna lie, Malik's senior year was really, really, really impressive in how much he improved his senior year. But if Malik can keep improving, he is going to be a problem. An absolute problem. Completely agree with that. Completely.
Oh, yeah. By the way, while we're all talking this horns down, I can't be giving y'all too much love.
That's fair.
I love y'all.
Expect nothing else.
No kidding. Which I love messing with the Texas guys, but no, seriously, real talk. The 6'5"ness of Malik Murray and the chunking the ball 85 yards, he terrifies me. I don't want to see him on the field. This makes me feel like Barry Switzer felt when he went up against Thurman Thomas. Yeah. Back in the 80s. I don't if y'all don't know the story, I'll give you a quick synopsis on it. Barry Switzer was watching tape about when they were preparing for Bedlam, and he said, "Hey, do me a favor, don't hurt Thurman Thomas. We need him on the field." And of course, as Oklahoma coaches, you would be like, "That sounds stupid. Why the hell would you want Thurman Thomas out there? He's a Heisman front runner. He's an All-American running back. Why would you want him to play?" Barry's like, "I'm scared of the guy behind him." The guy behind him was Barry Sanders. He's like, "I don't want that guy in the field. Keep this guy on the field, and we'll be fine." Sure enough, Barry Sanders gets the Heisman running for 26-22, and nobody else has been there yet or even really close. He made a good call. That's how I feel about Malik right now. Not saying that he can put up those historical numbers, but I think that he could go out there and just the perfect refine. And I think Sark can do it. That's the thing that makes it so terrifying is Sark can do it. He can refine that kid and develop him. He could be a monster. Yeah. Monster at the college ranks. Movement, passing, all of that. Like, I mean, I understand the Arch Manning fascination that a lot of people have. The Quinn Ewers was the one that, even his high school tape, I saw some deficiencies in his game, and you started seeing it late in this season. He just he doesn't make the best decision, and his accuracy isn't there. And it's like, oh shoot, that's what you need to be successful. It's weird because
on outside throws, he is very accurate, but over the middle is where it starts getting errant. That's just an odd thing. Usually, it's the opposite.
No, Nick, I'm not saying that he will be a running back. I mean, Roshan came in as a quarterback and converted to a running back, and was great at it. I mean, he was really good at it. I thought Texas had the best running back room in the country, my personal opinion, with Roshan as well as Bijan being able to do what they can do. I'm saying that the problem is that Malik as a freshman, the biggest issue is that with Malik, Arch Manning, and Quinn Ewers, who's going to play? And at a certain point, Texas got to find a way to keep him. You don't want to lose a player like him. And that's why I say if they can find a way to convert him to running back at 6'5", 230,
I don't think
he could just run. He's not.
He's a mobile guy. He's not that like.
Right. He's not. But I mean, to me, Roshan's not that mobile either. Like watching him play, he's not. But he's a really good running back. But that's the reason why Bijan Robinson is your starting running back.
I don't think he's that pretty mobile, man.
I don't think he's that mobile. But he can run. He's strong. Like you can teach it. I don't know. I difference of opinions. I totally get y'all. And I totally get you there on it, Nick V. I just don't know what you do. See, high 4.5, low 4.6.
Yeah, but I don't. Frightening. What would Malik run?
Yeah. What did Malik run?
I think it would be a 4.7. I think it would look just like Jameis Winston. I think he would
really?
be about a 4.9. Yeah. 4.9, 4.8. I think it would be almost just like Jameis Winston. Could be wrong.
He's a quarterback. He is a quarterback. I will say that he is a quarterback
because he's a pocket.
He just needs some.
Probably about to say. Okay, maybe
he could throw on the run. That's like one big thing. Yeah, that's the question. Is we got to find a way to keep him.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's completely fair. Now, this is the last thing I will say. This is the last topic I think we'll go on. This one right here, Matthew. I have one for you guys. Who starts at OU next year? Gabriel, if he stays, or Arnold? I would say Gabriel. That's me.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I'm 100% in agreement with you on there. So
I guess my question, truth is, would you have thought that Jameis was a 4.9 guy when he was outrunning the whole defense from Oklahoma State? I didn't know he would run a 4.95 or a 5-second flat 40 when he was at the combine, but he did it. It makes sense.
Yeah. Jameis was just chunky too at the same time. Crab legs get you that way.
Crab. Oh no.
I know, but no. On that question about the Gabriel Arnold piece, I don't see Oklahoma starting a true freshman at quarterback, even though he does know the offense. Now, does that mean that he won't take the job later? Don't mean that. It also doesn't mean that Dillon Gabriel won't start the entire season either. I can see Dillon Gabriel being the starter the entire season because Dillon Gabriel still led a top 20 offense in the country. And the receivers were dropping touchdowns. Let's put it like that. He had some miscues on his passes, but there was probably at least 5 touchdowns that were dropped. Like wide open, in your hands, off the fingertips to the ground. But if you say Malik runs a 4.7, I can see him playing running back. That's just me.
I don't know. I couldn't see it. Man, maybe I'm just wildly off here. Maybe you didn't see enough on his high school tape for me to be like he'd be a.
I get that because he's a pro style quarterback. No, I totally get that. But I think the other thing to go along with it as I shift back to Oklahoma in a second is with Malik. I'm curious to how much better that offensive line at Texas is going to get, because if that offensive line scheme wise and talent wise gets better, I could run through the holes that they're going to create. And I ran a 4.7 in high school. So,
yeah, that offensive line they have is really impressive.
That they're growing into now. Yeah. Like before, it was Bijan just doing his own. Him and Roshan doing their own thing. They were basically hit. He had the most yards after hit than anybody in the country. Mm-hmm. So Bijan was creating. So was Roshan. At 4.7, I think Malik could definitely do it. But like I said, I'm not saying he will be a running back. It's an idea being floated because I'm trying to figure out when he's going to hit the field. I need him to play. I want to see him play. At the same time, I want him to transfer too.
Because you don't want him to play for Texas. Yeah. No. Right. I get that. But that's that for a lot of these. But for a lot of these Texas fans, that's a compliment coming from an Oklahoma fan, right? Like that's a compliment saying I don't want to see this guy play because I am worried about what you have.
I don't see him on the field. I see him to transfer. But like Frightening makes a good point. He has steps. He doesn't run. I see him. He looks like he's just that much athletic than everybody else when I'm looking at his tape here. And he's just that so much athletic that he doesn't have to do anything. He kind of lollygags it.
Now, the one good thing that goes for Texas here, Surfer, is the Mannings have expressed that they are completely fine with sitting a year. Like Arch was asked about that, and he was like that if I need to sit and learn a year, I need to sit and learn a year. It is what it is. And in fairness, I think we're going to see Jackson Arnold do the same thing at Oklahoma. Sit and learn a year. You'll be better off for it. Come in your next year. Be good to go.
But yeah, back to Gabriel and Arnold piece. I just don't see them starting a true freshman unless they have to. If Dylan Gabriel gets hurt or his miscues are too bad, because he was still completing over 60% of his passes, which is what you want. He'll be better next year because the receivers, they'll be in better sync after a full year together. Farouk and all the young freshmen out there, God, we've got some talent back there. Agree, Brandon. Can't wait. I'm definitely going to jump on with you all on Tuesday, but outside of that, I do see Dylan Gabriel being the starter through the entire season, but don't be surprised if Jackson Arnold walks in midway through the season and takes the starting job. It has to be because of injury, most likely. It'll be less because of, it won't be a Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams situation. I'll just say that. I don't think it'd be poor because Gabriel was not terrible in the games this year. A lot of the problems were the timing were off and the receivers were dropping passes. And that's no shade to the receivers, but you can go watch the tape. They were dropping wide open passes.
Yeah, he had like
right in
half
their
a
hand.
1,000 yards taken away from him this season and drop passes is what someone had like. It was close to 500 yards and drop passes Oklahoma had.
Yeah,
it
at
was
least.
wild.
At least.
Wild.
And I think it was at least 5 touchdowns, like 40-plus yard touchdowns just gone. And it's just, so Mims comes back. It's another 1,000 yards for him. I guarantee. I think Farouk could get 1,000. I think we'll have 2,000-yard receivers next season with Dylan Gabriel throwing the ball. That's how confident I am in the offense with them together.
Yeah, third down. And I have a theory on this, Zach. Third down is a problem, but I'm going to go ahead and float this right now.
Okay.
The biggest measuring stick of success for the Oklahoma offense is first down. I've been charting this and I've been doing a rewatch, and here it'll probably come in January or February just because of how loaded everything is. I am working on a deep film study into the problems of the Oklahoma offense. And there's one consistency I have noted at an alarming rate. If Oklahoma has a negative to no gain on first down, you can almost bet your bottom dollar they are not converting the third.
It's done.
If they go and they're in 2nd and 10, you can almost bet the house that they are going to go 3 and out. It is almost without question. First down
has to get yards. Has to get yards. Yep.
First down. That's where a lot of this is. Now, I'm not saying that's the only issue. But that's one where I have been, because I was like you, Zach, you're 100% right. Third down conversion was horrendous. So I start looking at your third downs. I'm thinking, okay, what is going on here? And as I start realizing, I'm like, okay, as I'm charting these, like I'm charting every drive, what happened first down, second down, third down, what happened first down, second down. I start noticing that all of the 3 and outs have one thing in common. It's not the success of the play on second down. Obviously, the success on play of third down is a commonality, no doubt about it, because if you had a successful third down, you wouldn't be punting. But the lack of success on first down was the major deciding factor I saw. Really interested in diving more into that.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Okay.
It's going to be fun. My man, we have been here for 3 hours.
3 hours. I told myself I was going to take some calm time, and I was going to make some videos on players that OU picked up in the transfer portal as well as Colorado, but this was a lot more fun. So if anybody that watches my channel, you'll get something later today. I'll do something on Reggie Pearson that just committed from Texas Tech. I need to pull up his film and all those hits. Huge pickup, guy, because that dude's a hammer. That's why Alpha and the Omega. Dude's a hammer. And I've got the hits that he did on us that y'all can watch, and y'all going to be like, ooh, that's on our side now.
Win.
Thank goodness. So, yeah, man, this was fantastic as usual, Todd. Thank you for having me. Love it. Love it every time we get together and talk football because we won't stop. Oh, man. That's why I try to be careful pulling too much of your time because I know I can steal you for 4 hours.
Oh, but this is why I have some things, maybe depending if there's any breaking news, right? Depending what it is. But for the next few days, guys, enjoy the time with your family. Unless there's breaking news, and the people around my channel that have been here forever, they've heard this before. I'll post on the community tab, hey, I'm going to take 2 days off unless any breaking news happens, and then I drop 4 videos that same day. And it's just like, I thought you would take the day off. Well, here we are. But Sunday, Monday, I think that I am going to chill those 2 days, spend some time with the fiance, spend some time with family. Live stream that usually happens Mondays being moved to Tuesday. That way, Sunday, Monday, kind of have our downtime. So excited to see y'all at the live stream. Have a great time with your families. Jay, before we get out of here, where can the people find all of your great content?
You know where you can find me. Go search Unfair Sports on on YouTube. You'll find me, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. For my Sooner fans, I have a Sooner dedicated podcast that I announced on the live stream we did after the Peyton Bowen announcement. Sooner or Later Sports Podcast. It's focused only on OU stuff. Ty will definitely pull up one day when we talk more OU stuff later on, in particular positions or whatnot. But just go search Unfair Sports. You'll find all the content. That's part of the big universe that everything will be under. And thanks again, man. I appreciate the time.
Yes, Surfer says you guys are a great duo. Surfer, Jay and I have a good problem when it comes to podcasting. It's that and I've said it 1,000, we came in here and we're like, hey, we're going to keep it a tight hour. We're going to do this topic, this topic, this topic. We're going to keep it a tight hour and outdone. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes later, and we're ending this because of necessity. If Jay and I kept going, we would genuinely be on here another 3 hours. So it's a great problem to have for content and podcasting. But having said that, y'all.
And I even told Ty this to go with it, man. I don't hit up Ty as much as I really want to, because I know that we will go for hours just like this, talking, texting about it. So I try to stay calm with them. Like, when I get in front of them, we're going to talk for hours, but hell, I may just go back to say, screw it. We'll talk all the time.
No,
and just call it a day.
This is what I do all day, every day. This is what I do. So it just gives me something more to do. I love it, man.
Agreed. But hey, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, all the good stuff to everybody from me and everyone at Unfair Sports. Thank you for all the support. And thanks for having me, Ty.
Absolutely. Y'all enjoy your time, and we'll see you on Tuesday. That's it. See you.
Peace.
Spinning wheel of